Hello and welcome to another edition of the B&B Show. My name is Brandon Kane, and this guy here to my left, that's Seahawks Brendan Nelson in the house, making his return here on Thursday. Brendan, good to have you back in tow. How are things going?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I don't think you could ask for too much better than what we are getting right now from this team, man. They're doing things that very few Seahawks teams in franchise history have done.
It's been quite a wonderful situation to watch, hasn't it? And it's a little bit of almost like a dreamlike scenario as you kind of go through this a bit. Obviously, if you had like one loss or something, that'd be the only way this could be better. But you have a team that seemingly is getting more improved as the year goes along. The health has maintained and held. That you can feel the young players rising and developing within this. It's really one where you just go. There's so many good signs and arrows that are pointing up on this team, on top of the fact that it's just the bottom line record. Because you could be at 9-3 and you barely eked a bunch of these wins out. You got kind of lucky, ball bounced in a couple of games, but in these games, it's been you're getting up and you're putting teams away, and you're thoroughly saying on the day, we are better than you, and there is no doubt.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Like we're beating these teams down. These are not close games. Like recent memory, 2019, that was a team that I think was 9-3 at one point. Maybe they were even 10-2, but it didn't feel like this team at all. This feels completely different.
Yes, it does. Top three scored offense, top three scoring defense. Defense actually number one, in my opinion, when you kind of take out some of the offensive short field turnovers that they've thrown to the defense. They'd be by far the number one scoring defense, if not for like half of those freaking turnovers. But we had another game like that this last week against the Minnesota Vikings, one that we anticipated last week was going to be the case with Max Brosmer going in there. It turns out the Viking fans were wrong. He is not the new iteration of Tom Brady. Shocker, Brendan. Mm-hmm. But we did take care of business as we've taken care of business throughout the course of this year. We got up on top of this team. It wasn't a 35-point spot in the first half like we've seen at times, but from my standpoint, there is going to be a lot to unpack on this particular last game, because it was what it was. What we thought going in. We leaned on them. We did what we were supposed to do. Defense is amazing, as they've been, and it kind of fit the form, didn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think people, especially in a game like this, need to be mindful of context. When this team went up 13-0 at halftime or 16-0 on the first drive of the third quarter, the game was effectively over and everybody knew it. And that's going to affect the way in which the rest of the game is managed. And I think you saw that. I know that, I don't know about you, but I know that on my side, Seahawks fans are starting to get a little bit antsy about this offense a little bit. And they're looking at games like this and going, what happened to the offense? I think it's important to keep in mind here that context kind of dictated the way that game flowed. And the situation we were in, where, first of all, Brian Flores was kind of in his bag again. That was some really cool stuff that he was whipping out there. But when we went up 13-0, 16-0, I think there was an understanding that the only way we could lose that game is if we give it away. Like, that's literally the only thing that can happen. So therefore, everything that happened in that second half was all about, let's not give the game away. Because this isn't college football. We don't need style points. We just need to win. So something to keep in mind.
I saw it the same way, and I'm not worried about the offense. I think it was what they did. The Rams did this to us a couple weeks ago when Sam was in the midst of throwing 4 interceptions, where they realized in that second half we don't have to do as much, just play it clean and hold on the ball and don't turn it over. And they were proven right on that in the way that this did play out. There is a part of this that's going to push forward to this next week in this Atlanta game when we do the preview on this one. I was a little bit thrown off offensively from one perspective on this, Brendan, specifically. And it's not that you didn't find success later on. They made adjustments as the game went on. I didn't understand why they felt like they weren't as prepared and ready to deal with Flores' blitz, that they didn't have really a plan in place. And that was this was an oddity Kubiak game plan game for me. Like the Niner game, like the Ram game. This was one starting out where I went, I'm not sure what you thought they were going to do here, because you seem to be caught completely off guard.
Yeah, I thought that too. I think that you saw in that second half, they kind of went to that quick game a little bit. There was more of a concerted effort. We had the short screen passes to AJ Barner, but it did kind of occur to me, like, where was that in the first half? How was that not the plan going into the game? I understand that maybe you're looking at some of those first half plays and you're thinking, okay, the running game got us into some third and long situations, and kind of put the team in uncomfortable spots. But like the strip sack, that was on first down. So I was a little bit confused by that as well. It seemed like there was kind of a formula to be able to beat the Vikings pretty easily. Just kind of go the same kind of thing we're talking about with the Rams in a completely different context, ironically enough, because the Rams and Vikings, I think, played very differently in those two games. But I did wonder where the short game was. I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of growing pains in watching this offense adjust from what they were earlier in the season to what they're going to be going into the playoffs. But I do think you're right. That is a little bit confusing. I'm not really worried about it yet, but that is definitely something that can be a problem down the line.
Yeah, bear with me one sec.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, that's I've heard some people suggest that maybe Kubiak is kind of getting fancy play syndrome because he's trying to get one of these head coaching jobs next offseason. That's what some people have been saying. Maybe that's true. Maybe he wants to be the OC that goes into this offseason and is able to say, hey, I'm the offensive coordinator that got JSN the all-time receiving record. I'm the OC that had the offense that led the league in scoring. So he's kind of losing track, but I don't know if that's what it is or not. It's hard to know about this stuff sometimes.
Yeah, it'd be hard for me to quite get there with so many of the games that he's embraced running the ball more than he's passed the ball, and played it very conservative. If he was kind of operating from that mentality, I think that he just sometimes gets a little bit into the overthink it phase of things, and maybe tries to anticipate something that's outside the box rather than just staying in the box of what you should be anticipating. And hopefully this week he corrects this a little bit, because you're going to get the same from the Atlanta Falcons in a major way. And so you can't operate like they're not going to do the same stuff and have some of this built-in functionality in what you're doing and what you did in the second half. And the good news to me, Brendan, was that he did find some answers in that second half. To your point, the adjustments, getting the throws out into the flat, having a little bit more of just getting the ball out of his hands, anticipating a little bit better of that blitz. Would like to see them do more of that this week when we get to Atlanta and not get as caught off guard. When it came to the defense in this game, anything else you can say from a superlative standpoint about this defense and how great they are and how well they've played? I mean, just another, maybe the best performance of the year, of a performance of absolutely stunning performances. But it seemed like, to a man, to my eyes, everybody was, you could laud everybody. Has been much of the case defensively throughout this year. It's not just the stars holding the line or some guy dominating like Jadeveon Clowney did a couple years ago in the Niners, where it's one guy kind of like, oh my God, he just like picked the team up on his back. Seems like the collective to me. Does it feel like that the same way for you with this defense? You're muted.
Starting off early today, I guess. But yeah, I think that's very much the case. And I think that it's kind of illustrated by the Pro Bowl voting came out. And I know it's the Pro Bowl. I know the Pro Bowl doesn't really matter that much. I know that it's kind of just a popularity contest now. But for maybe the best defense in football, there isn't a lot of representation at the top of that. Like, I think Byron Murphy is like top 3 for defensive tackles, and that's it. And I first of all, I mean, I think that the voting is getting it wrong here. I think like they didn't even have Ernest Jones as a top 10 linebacker, which is clearly not the case. But it also does kind of represent that this is more of a team effort than it is any one player. Like, we don't have that one superstar edge that is giving you 15 plus sacks. We don't have that one cornerback that is giving you 8 or 10 interceptions or anything like that. It is a pretty clean team effort right now. There's nobody getting significant snaps that you feel like is a big weak link, I think. Maybe there's a little bit of that on the defensive line, but when we get Jaron Reed back in, maybe this week, you're basically going to be in as good a spot as you could possibly imagine being, and Julian Love as well. I guess I should throw him in there too. So yeah, it is the whole unit. And I just hope that when this season is over, Seahawks fans realize that this defense is comparable with the LOB defenses in terms of their ability. I hope that we just recognize what we're watching here, because I've said it before, it's hard to recognize how great things are in the moment. It's hard to recognize how special something is in the moment. But I hope this is an instance where we as Seahawks fans can recognize that we're watching something really, really unique and really, really awesome there.
We really are. And it's a defense that's complete all the way across the board, from generating pressures and sacks to turnovers to limiting the rushing attack to limiting the passing attack. It is a full meal defense without any kind of weaknesses right now, to your point as well, potentially getting into its most healthiest of shape at the end of the year. And that would be a hell of a thing to be able to have in your back pocket as you go in the playoffs. Is that in addition to that? I mean, we may even have Riley Mills thrown in the mix on this. Who knows? So it could even be even better than that. We'll have to see. Anything else about this game you want to talk about or that jumped out to you in this win? Oh, you're muted.
You've got to be kidding me. I feel like Max Brosmer, man. I feel like Max Brosmer out there. I'm staring down this pass rush. I'm trying to get the ball out of my hands, and
The
I'm just
heat's
losing
getting to you,
track.
brother.
Yeah. Sorry.
They're heating them up.
Yeah. I do want to go back to this offense a little bit here, because again, I think the thing that I'm really kind of trying to discuss a lot on my channel when I'm talking about this team is the offense, because I feel it, right? I feel that panic starting to settle in, that, what happened to the offense? Why aren't we scoring 35 points a game anymore? Why isn't Sam Darnold throwing for 500 yards a game? Why isn't this? Why isn't that? And one thing that I've really been hammering on my channel and on Bleacher Report this week, the thing that's kind of happened over the last month, because the last month has been kind of it's been when the offense has leveled off a little bit. The running game has improved significantly, and over the last 4 games, we actually have the 10th best rushing attack in the league by EPA per play. So it's, remember, and in the first 2 months of the year, it was like 26th. So we had one of the worst rushing attacks in football. Now we have above average to good. And I'm really trying to emphasize that as we go through the rest of the season, because I think it needs to be understood that the way we were playing offense earlier in the season was fun. It was great. I don't know how sustainable it was. I don't know how sustainable it is to run the ball more than just about any other team for like 3.7 yards a carry and just kind of be, 2 yards in a cloud of dust over and over and over again. And then just depending on an explosive passing attack, especially when you get into December and January, when the weather gets worse. And it really goes back to me. This is one thing I've been talking about a lot, Rashid Shaheed, because I've noticed this too. Some Seahawks fans going, where's Rashid Shaheed? We traded for this guy. He's got like 4 catches in 4 games. What's going on? Why isn't this guy getting the ball? And one thing that I've spent a lot of time on is this guy has changed the way opposing defenses play us, and it has made the passing attack less explosive, but I think it's opened up the running game to where we now have an offense that is more sustainable into January. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that what Shaheed has done to opposing defenses is worth more than what his production could be if he was getting the ball thrown his way more.
Yeah, and I think that with Rashid, I always thought that this was a little bit of a patient thing that you had to take with him on letting him develop mid-year with the team, because he's coming on with Sam and he's coming on with an OC. And Sam, with the when you're this deep in the season, you can't just go off to the side with Rashid Shaheed and be like, let's go throw 50 balls here on the side so I get my timing with you. Some of this is at this point with a quarterback, you're protecting their arm and the number of throws that they have on that so they can practice fully. And so you're having to kind of acclimate him here on the fly in live fire drills, so to speak, when it sort of counts. I do think that his impact has been felt. You could feel it on, for instance, the Jackson Smith-Njigba touchdown to the Titans last week, where you have Rashid running an over route. He runs the over route and he pulls the safety down into him. And that in pulling that safety down into him, then that's what opens up it over the top. So, actually, Brendan, I got this actually. So why don't I just show it to you? You know this play, I'm sure, but why don't we just show the people what I'm talking about?
All right.
So, from my perspective on this, yeah, you're right about that impact and how that's come along. Here we go. I got this here. So, okay. So let's take a look at this really quick here on this play. That's the first part. Sorry. That was the wrong one. My bad, Brendan. Live show, Brendan. You know how this goes. I want to show you this, though, because this is to your point. So it sort of serves to what you're talking about. Offensive play called 2 Titans. There we go. Okay. So Rashid Shaheed's at the top of your screen. So he's at the top. You're going to end up with a single high safety because the other safety picks up Jackson Smith-Njigba on this play. So watch Rashid Shaheed and then watch the single high safety on this play, Brendan. So if you just watch that single high safety here, initially, he's going to Jackson. Initially. Sliding back, he's going to be that deep, but then he reverses form midstream because he goes, oh, wait, he's coming with the over route. I got to run up on that. And that's Shaheed there and Shaheed's open on this. I think partly he sees look at his guy, the cornerback stumbles here out of Shaheed's break. See the cornerback fall? So he sees the cornerback fall because of the nice break by Shaheed, forces the safety up, who was probably on this play supposed to ideally be sliding back to depth, but he reads it on the fly that he thinks it's going to go under, and that's how you're able to get that play to go. Play at regular speed here again. Drives over the top. So Shaheed, to your point, is, yes, having an impact to a degree. Is it the catches and all of that? No, but some of this comes back to as well as we had another game this week where you're pretty much decided to stop passing the ball about halfway in the second quarter, which was kind of about what we had last week with the Tennessee Titans. And a part that people have got to factor into this passing attack is that when you're going to have the lowest volume passing attack in the sport, probably, and that's what we're on pace to just about have, or, minimum as far as attempts go, you're probably not going to be putting up a top 5 amount of yards. You're not going to be up in that spot. So the fact that we're still a top 3 offense in the sport right now, despite so many of these games where you've basically dialed it back for at least a quarter and a half through those whole games offensively because you're conservative and you're just trying to get the win out. You've got the win in hand, basically. I think you got to think about that a little bit when looking at this offense and have that where we take a little bit of a grain of salt with this on how they're playing. And your point about the run game is absolutely a salient one. The team has gotten better in running the ball in recent weeks. You can feel it. The stats back this up. We thought that this was also the way that this was going to work because this is a detail-driven running game. So it's one where the finer-tuned details of this don't get learned in week 2 or 3 for a new coaching staff coming in. They're ones that might take you through most of the year to have these offensive linemen finally learn that timing, get that cohesiveness on point, get that exact. You see it on the double team on the Caller up, Barner double team on the Zach Charbonnet touchdown run, Brendan, where that timing of Caller up coming down, first hitting the double team, peeling off the double team, getting onto the safety on the top. That's that timing and detail stuff I'm talking about, which you don't just master out the jump in the system because it is so detail driven and the timing is so hard to quite get down exact. So I think it's perfectly fine. The last point I'll say on this, Brendan, is that defenses tend to come a little bit more forward as the season goes along, as the weather gets more worse, it's a little colder. Defenses tend to catch up a little bit more to the offenses. Offenses tend to stay out ahead of the defenses initially in NFL seasons.
Yeah, I think that some people looked at Rashid Shaheed and thought he was going to come in here and be some big time playmaker, catching 5-6 passes a game, 120 yards, long touchdowns. But when I look at Rashid Shaheed, I see a guy that is changing the way defenses play against Seattle with his talent that is opening up this offense to become more balanced. Because I'm going to say it again, we're in December now. We're going to be playing in January. Hopefully we're playing in February. A lot of these games that we're going to play are probably going to be in open air stadiums. Like what do you think is going to work in those games? If we're playing at home, open air stadium. If we had to go to, I don't think this will happen, but if we go to San Francisco, well, we know we're going to go to San Francisco at least once. That's a open stadium. That's a game subject to bad weather. I think we go to Carolina later this year. I believe they have an open air stadium as well. If we go on the road to Green Bay, that's maybe the purest example. If we go on the road to Chicago, like what do you think is going to work better? Yeah, Philly. There's another good one. What do you think is going to work better? The offense we had earlier this year, where you would just run the ball into a brick wall over and over again and then throw it to JSN for big plays, or an effective rushing attack that is actually able to balance things out, and a receiver core that is forcing the defense to play a little more honest, a little bit more too high safety?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to draw a lot of that. I think Shaheed's impact is that way, especially as you try to roll the double team to JSN's side. Do you want to then single up a Shaheed 1-on-1 on the outside if you're trying that single high safety look with the stack boxes we faced a heavy amount of this year? Or is that going to force those teams in the cover 2 shell, partly because they're going to run cover 2 pure post snap and allowing for those doubles to be slid to both of JSN and a Shaheed at the same time. And I think that's a little bit of what you're going to get. And hopefully you end up putting defenses in a box where you can run the ball so effectively that, hey, they go light boxes, we can run on them. They go heavy boxes, now we can drill them over the top in the passing game, and it can be just that bloody simple.
Right. Like one other thing to keep in mind here, the Vikings are very unique. They send the house, but they're pretty good at sending the house and staying in too high at the same time. Most other defenses, like I think the one we're playing this week is a little bit more typical where they're willing to send the house. Atlanta loves to blitz. I think they're second in blitz rate or something like that.
They are.
But
yes.
Yeah. But they're a little bit more traditional in that they will go single high in order to accommodate that.
Yeah, and I'd say traditional too, and the less of the intricacies of Flores' blitzing scheme, to your point of that as well, of where he does a lot of stuff to the back end that's so very creative, while still being able to get away with blitzing to the front end. And he does that uniquely. It's why he's such a good coordinator. You can't just look at the film this week if you're Atlanta and be like, we're going to do exactly that, because to your point, you're not exactly built to do that. And the NFL doesn't work that way, where you can be just like, oh, they did all this stuff, so we're going to rejigger through our defense to get all the stuff to do what they do and how their details are set up. It won't work that way. Still got to deal with the blitz. Still going to be tough to handle, and we got to get some better answers in there, but it won't be the same kind of style.
Like I don't think a team like the Rams could ever become blitz heavy, because they're just not built for that. They're a team that they do stunts, they do twists, but they don't want to send 6-7 guys on a play.
No, they're built for the front four. They're built to send the 5 and occasionally catch you off guard when they can send the blitz. But that's then hopefully catching you anticipating a front four. That's how they want to roll. Light boxes and that type of stuff too.
Right. I like it. And that's really all I wanted to talk about. I think that's the main thing that I've been hammering the last few days, because I sense the panic creeping in about the offense.
Yeah. And I can get where people are coming, being a little wanting a little bit more, but again, can't lose perspective on this, Brendan. When we look at the bottom line of this, you've got a top 5 offense, you have a top 5 defense, you have maybe the best special teams unit in the NFL. That is a team that can have a pathway to going and winning a Super Bowl championship. We can get caught in the details, we can get caught up in the details, but that bottom line is one that's performed very well in NFL history when those type of teams get into the playoffs. So I think we're going to be okay. We got some tests coming up. We're going to learn where we stand here after this week, of course. But we're going to get some tests here coming down the line, soon enough, Brendan, to, kind of figure out what's what and, who's who. Ski Nation, thank you for becoming a member over on my side of it. Appreciate you. I know you've done that before. Welcome back aboard to the Hawks Nest. We'll be getting a member-only show off tonight as well. So keep an eye on your community post if you are a member. We'll be doing the Thursday night football tonight. Thank you, Ski, for that. Seth K. Aloha, thank you for the $2 donation. He says 6 different defenders with over 30 pressures. It's a hell of a defensive line they put together. I know Brock was talking about this being better than the defensive line of the Super Bowl Legion of Boom era. Do you go that far with it, Brendan?
I think it is. I think it is. The strength of that defense was not so much the defensive line. I mean, remember, think about the interior on that team. You had Brandon Mebane. You had, I think Red Bryant was still on that team, but he kind of played big end more than he did on the interior.
Early down. Yeah, he's an early down edge.
And you had Clinton McDonald. Those guys did their job, but they're not in the same stratosphere as a guy like Big Cat and Murphy. I think that you could put both of those guys on the All-Pro team this year, and I'd be like, yeah, that's probably about right. So I'm all for that. And as good as Averill and Bennett were, they were not the premier pass rushers of that era or anything. So, yeah, I'd probably rather have Averill and Bennett than Nwosu and Lawrence, but not by that much. Not really.
Yeah, it's close. And the cool part, Seth Clay Aloha, with this 30 pressures thing is so much of what you do in getting your pressures here is based on some guys doing hard hat work and doing dirty work on plays, be it I'll be the front man on the loop and I'm going to try to take up the 2 blockers so Leonard Williams can wipe around me, or I'm going to run up inside here off the hard edge and just obliterate the offensive line so this guy can come around this other side on the blitz. That's a part of this too that's so cool, because Seth, this isn't just guys getting the pressures of them lining up like the Legion of Boom era was, where you go, here's your front 4, get after it, go generate the pressures. These guys are generating the pressures by how you're manufacturing that pass rush and by how you're having guys at times who are going to have to do kind of that dirty work of, look, I don't have a chance to really make the sack on this play. I'm just going back there to just kind of do the dirty work so I can free up my teammate to get free. And they've all bought into that, Brendan. And that's part of what's allowed this defense to execute at this high level, because it's hard for those, you ask defensive players, right? Hey, you're going to take this snap off of pass rushing. You're gonna get dinged for this probably. Like PFL before I ding you on your grade on this. People will go, well, why doesn't you have more pressure on this? We're gonna remove one more opportunity for you because you're gonna have to come in here and do this. But they've all done that to a man, and that's part of why this team's gotten to where they've gotten, is the buy-in too is complete and all across the board.
Yeah, it's special. And again, that's why I just hope people realize how special what we're watching right now with this team is, because it's hard to realize how special something is until it's after the fact, I think. But I think we need to understand how unique this is, because again, I don't know if this defense is better than the LOB defense, but it's not far off.
LOB defense in its 2 years of going to the Super Bowl was not putting teams away like this every single week. You weren't putting teams away in the second freaking quarter, which is what we're watching. I mean, just putting them to bed. So yeah, I think we got to appreciate it, man, because these kind of Ds don't come along all the time. Stephen Penor, thank you for the $2 donation, says RD is a Super Bowl machine. Love the channels. Thank you for that, Stephen. And they are Super Bowl worthy. They're Super Bowl ready. Getting healthier down the stretch, Brendan. Isn't it so cool that this defense seems to get better and better and better? But then also you can see the potential. And look, we got to play some games. There'll probably be some injuries here too, but at least on paper, you're set up for the stage of to have every one of these defenders in tow by the time you get to the end of the season, that you'll have even your backups in play, from your Tyrese Knights to your Jaron Reeds, ready to roll at that point to provide the depth in there. And that's hard to get to that stage at the end of the year after having the kind of year we've had, isn't it?
Yeah, it is like that 2013 team, because that 2013 team, they had injuries, they had problems, but by the end of the year, basically everybody was there. We were missing KJ Wright a little bit, and that's it. Everybody else was there for you. It is part of this, right? As much as we don't want it to be, a big part of this NFL thing is having injury luck at the important moments.
It is, and it can be random when it bites you, and it's something to where it's like your snake bit, can't get around it. What's going on this year? Why is it happening? So we're having kind of a good year on this. Credit to the Seahawks training staff as well, though, for being able to make this happen. It's not by accident. It seems like they've definitely found the right combination to keep these guys right, and their approach to how they deal with injuries and all of that has been very impressive this year. By we had all those years at times back in the LB days, late LOB days, teens, where we'd have teams get decimated by injuries too. Yeah. Some of that comes back to, I think, too, this, we don't have those extra snaps. It's not as much the bend but don't break defense. It's not as much the, here's all these extra snaps on your back defensively that you have to carry throughout the course of the year, which puts you much more susceptible to those injuries, because you're able, like in a game like this, to keep a DeMarcus Lawrence to 20 snaps in a game by having the comfortable win. I got to think that that's going to keep these guys fresh as we get down the home stretch too.
Yeah. D-Law played 20 snaps in that last game. Barely qualified for a lot of the pass rush win rate stuff, because you have to play 20 snaps to qualify, and he barely made it. So that's going to help. Leonard Williams played 29 snaps.
You got to think this helps, because there's been a couple of these games this year, right? And it's just like that adds up. That stuff stacks up over there. That guy's just a little bit fresher at the end of the year, a little bit more rare to go. I wonder about a Jaron Reed, an older guy in his 30s. You've given him the opportunity to have that 7-8 games off. Now, can he come back and be a bat out of hell when he gets on the football field, because he just feels fresh as hell, as fresh as he ever has at this time of year in a given NFL season? I kind of wonder about this. And maybe it's a little bit me being hopefully optimistic, Brendan, but it does feel feasible. It feels realistic to me.
Yeah, think about how shredded the 2014 Seahawks were by the end of the year. And, if we have even average injury luck at the end of the year that year, I think we mow through New England to the Super Bowl. Like, think about what had to happen. Michael Bennett, it was Cliff Averill gets the concussion. Cam Chancellor's playing on a leg that doesn't work. What was it? I think Brandon Browner was out in that last game, which is why Thorold Simon had to play. Like, so much stuff going on in that game. And by the end, it was like they had no chance defensively. No. So even that was early LOB. That wasn't even late stage LOBs. So sometimes you just need those things to go your way.
We do. And to your point, Denver didn't have a work in their favorite grade when we played them the prior year. No Von Miller, no Derek Wolfe. no franchise left tackle Ryan Clady over there on the other side to protect Peyton Manning. So it's one where it can swing both ways on that. You just want to be on the right end, and it's random, and it's a little bit of the luck factor, and it's working well in our favor so far. Richard Stewardson, thank you for the $5 donation. Richard, he says, I got my new Seahawks jacket today. I am delighted. Well, congratulations there, Richard. Hopefully it's a snazzy little jacket out there, and they got some cool ones out there, so we picked up a good one on that. But thank you, man. Appreciate the $5. Upo with a $5 donation over on Brendan's side says, did y'all hear McDonald barbecue grub, not by name, on his radio show? Can we agree to never try that experiment again?
Yeah, I did. I did notice that. It was like he was talking about how, you can't just call plays. You need to actually like call a game. Like you can't just take every play individually. It was something like that, right?
Yeah, and I do think you're right, Upo, in that it was a bit of a shade to a grub. I don't think he was trying to like actively go at grub, but it was just something that was on his mind that it had been stuck in his craw probably since last year. And it's something that we heard about with Ryan Grubb, and that he came from the college scene thinking that, this is a little bit about, mismatches. I've got DK Metcalf. He's a mismatch. I'm going to attack that mismatch with my play calling, as opposed to you've got to attack play calling to coverages. You've got to attack to what a defense is doing and trying to hit them where they're going to be light and weak. And Grubb seemed to have that college background where it's like wide hashes. I can draw everybody over onto this hash and then stick one guy like Aroma Dunze over on the far hash, and I can isolate him one-on-one, and I can just have him go beat his guy and have Penix kind of throw the ball up for him. That's not going to work in the NFL. And you got to be a little bit more intricate in your process, as McDonald talked about. And yes, I don't think we're ever going to try that. I think that as well, Upo, you're not going to see a lot of teams willing to try that, partly because of this grub failure. I think we already saw prior that there had never been an OC come from the college game to the pros. I don't know if you're going to see that ever again, point blank period, when the one time it was tried, it was a complete and utter failure.
Yeah, and you got what happened with Chip Kelly this year now, right? And that was a guy who actually had NFL
Great example.
experience, right? And we don't yet have all the details. We only have what's come out since the firing. I'm sure there's going to be more in the offseason, but that sounds like it was even a bigger disaster than Grubb. That sounds like that was even more of a train wreck. Yeah. I don't know how something like that is even possible to happen in the modern NFL. I don't know how you have a guy calling plays that literally don't exist in the playbook, and there's this giant divide between the OC and everybody else. So it is going to be interesting to see what kind of where these teams go when they're trying to find play callers now, because it feels like there's a little bit of a market deficiency there right now, where I don't know who the hot OCs are. I know who the bad OCs are, but I don't know who the hot OCs are that everybody wants. Kubiak's probably near the top of the list, but a lot of people say his personality is never going to make it work as a head coach in the NFL. So even that, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting. There was a point in time there where it looked like the spread offense was the future, but it clearly is not.
Yeah, it seems like it's reversed course on this, and that we're going part of this side in the cover two shell, and where the NFL is going offensively wise, and what it's forcing then defenses to probably have to do, and then forcing offenses by what defenses are doing to what they need from the quarterback position, which is more of a guy that can do a myriad of things, not just line up in shotgun and throw pop passes all day. And that's going to go away a little bit. Maybe it comes back in another 7 or 8 years, Brendan, with the cylindrical cycle of the nature of this sport. But right now, that's not where it is at. And so you're right. There's just not a lot of good guys out there. I don't know. I mean, I think that the Kubiak personality thing is something that will wade a little bit into this. But I mean, like, how much of a personality does Kyle Shanahan have?
Yeah,
I think it's
overstated. I think it's overstated.
Yeah, it is a part of the puzzle, but there's not a lot of grade A candidates out there. Absent, we're seeing guys get cut away that are head coaches that suddenly people like Tomlin, LaFleur, that happens. Maybe that could change the game here. But if those guys, maintain at their spot, and there's not a lot of guys that are cut that are, grade A names, Kubiak's going to rise up on that list. I mean, this guy now back-to-back season has gone to 2 different programs, Brendan, and taken 2 bad offenses and made them good. And last year, the Saints, it wasn't made good merely just because of the injury situation, which he had nothing to do with. So yeah. I think the NFL doesn't tend to be slow on this stuff. They tend to be more faster on the finding the young signal callers that are up and comers that they like. I think that there's a real chance here with Kubiak that he's gonna be plucked up this offseason.
Yeah, and if Tomlin or LaFleur becomes available, that means there's going to be an additional head coaching slot open because they would have to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
it's
the
not like that's making anything better.
It's not making anything better. And I think LaFleur maybe is doing enough now to where he might be able to hold on to his job, but he's out of contract after this year with the Packers. He doesn't have another year on his deal. And with Tomlin, you have to feel like that's trending in that direction. Gannon probably is going to be let go. We've already got the Giants job open. We've already got the Tennessee Titans job open. The Atlanta Falcons, I was doing a behind enemy line session talking to them, and they're kind of putting the blame here on Raheem this year. So, and that coaching staff. And so, I mean, you tell me Kubiak going to Michael Penix that wouldn't be a draw for him to go to Atlanta, back down to the South, have a Michael Penix with a, good talent on that team. I mean, that'd probably be a pull. So there's going to be some jobs here available is kind of my point. And the more jobs available to your point, the more of the likelihood and the chances are he's going to get plucked up.
Yeah, you could see like every head coaching job in the AFC North come available this offseason, except for whoever wins the division. Like I think there's going to be one team that gets to like 8 wins, wins the division, and their guy gets to survive for one more year. But everybody else, man, I don't know. Like, I love Stefanski, but I think his time might be up.
Yeah, it might. I do think he'd be one of those guys that would be plucked up. And boy, that seems like he's just been given a crap sandwich to just one after another every year, right, Brendan? Like if he just gets the first one down from the prior year and he's like, oh, and then they hand him another one that's a double decker. And they're like, here you go. Now this one for 25. Deshaun Watson's contract. Oh, Shedeur Sanders. Oh, Dylan Gabriel. Oh. It's one bite after another for that guy. You feel bad, but you are right. It very well could be that we see that just about every team out there. I think Steichen's done enough to keep his job. He's not,
Yeah, Steichen's good, but I think Carroll's gone. I do think that they'll actually move on from there. And like you said, Gannon, and then you've got who else is there? Yeah, the Giants job's already open. That's probably about it, but that's a lot.
It's a lot. And there's not a lot of grade A candidates sitting out there that are ready to just be, hey, come grab me. Hey, I'm great. Does anybody feel excited about grabbing Mike McCarthy at this point?
I think Tennessee would be. I think Tennessee, that should be like their priority. Like, we'll pay Mike McCarthy whatever he wants. I need stability. Give me Mike McCarthy. But for these other teams, yeah, I understand why that's not super appealing. But I think McCarthy's going to get a job because somebody's going to value that stability.
I can see it. And he's one of the only candidates out there that does have a little bit of that. The history of being in a few spots and having some success. So it's possible. There aren't a lot of those guys out there. And I think you're going to see a lot more of the coordinators being grabbed because of it.
By the way, what if Andy Reid retires? He teases it every offseason.
It's true. That's very true.
Buffalo. I think that if Buffalo goes one and done or doesn't make the playoffs, they're going to be needing a new head coach.
They're getting close to as well. Well, to your point on that, they're right. Their fan base is getting very annoyed with McDermott, defensive-minded coaches whose defenses aren't playing particularly well. You don't last too long, Brendan, when you got a grade A quarterback playing as good as anybody in the sport, and you're a defensive-minded head coach, and your defense is sucking wind year after year. That's not a good look for you.
Yeah, and I mean that's almost 10 spots we came up with that could open up, and I mean, look, McCarthy's going to take one of them, maybe. Maybe Buffalo just picks up Daboll because he was their OC previously, I guess. But a lot of those spots, they're going to be digging. They're going to be digging.
It's a lot of digging, man. I mean, Mike McDaniel, we got Miami's thing too with Mike McDaniel. I mean, and then it kind of feels like to me, Brendan, if you get to 8 or 9, I mean, kind of feels like he's gone if it gets to that spot. That's just too many teams. And there's not enough, back to your point, there's not enough grade A offensive coordinators to facilitate that many openings. It just becomes a little bit of like a musical chairs game, and we got more chairs than we got participants moving around the chairs walking,
Yeah. By the way, what if Tampa Bay falls apart and misses the playoffs here? I mean, maybe.
I think they'd get the injury front because they lost they lost a lineman for the year. Evans has been out for the year. Godwin's not been his normal self. Defensively, you've had Elijah Cansey out for most of the year. I think he's going to get a bit of the benefit of the doubt with that team, and especially without Baker still playing well, I don't think they're going to want to upset the apple cart on that one.
You're probably right, but he is the defensive coach, right? And they're probably looking at it like, man, I wish we had promoted Canales instead. if they could have that one back.
Maybe so, or maybe the Duval guy as well.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's great.
Lost him as well. Where's my? Hold on, I gotta do my Duval shot here.
Duval.
Slowby one. Thank you for the $2 donation. It says go Hawks. F the Rams. We win in the West. We win in the West, Brendan. We winning this thing? Are we running the table?
I'm feeling it a little bit, man. I'm feeling it a little bit. You know, the Russian got cut last week in Carolina. The Russian was cut.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. Bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah. So I mean, I know we can't do all the same things that Carolina does, but I think it did kind of expose some issues with that Rams team that you hadn't noticed for a couple months.
They stayed committed to the run, Brendan. We didn't stay committed to the run against that Rams team. I mean, that's what you got to do against that light box is you've got to run the ball. You can't get pass happy. So they stayed in the pocket. That's a little bit what Carolina does. And big for us, man. It's going to be hard to make this happen down the end of the run because you're going to have to win every one of these games to do it. But I do feel like right now we control our fate at this point. Chicago's going to lose another game. They are going to lose another game of that schedule. So you win out here. You've got the number 1 seed, the number 1 bye. And I don't have to tell Hawk fans how big a benefit that'd be to us going to the playoffs.
Right.
Mumbles, thank you for 37 months as a Hawks Nest member. I appreciate you for that. He says, Brando, are you going to get Jesse I love Sam Darnold hat? I might have to do that instead, but I do have one big monstrous hat that I'm going to put him in. I did another hat bet, Brendan, with the Niner on the round table. So lost in the week 1. I'm going to recoup some of my pride. He's opened the door with Bosa and Warner on the bench now. So I feel pretty good about the bet now as much as ever. So I got this big monstrous hat, man. I'm going to do Mumbles that I think is going to look really, really good.
Yeah.
So he mentioned I got to cut out the top for his hair or something.
Yeah. If we need to win that game and we don't win it with all the injuries the Niners have. And by the way, I'm starting to think they're playing the lesser of their 2 quarterbacks anyway, even regardless of any injury stuff. That's a little sad. I think that would be a little bit sad if we can't win that game.
I would agree with you. They've had our number with it, but I thought you should add the game in the first game of the year, but this one, there's no excuses. You got those 2 guys out in Bosa and Warner who have given you fits through the years. You should be able to just waylay them at that point. So hopefully so, man. Hopefully so. And then if it comes down to that, that'll be a lot of fun. But I think I'm going to put him in that big old hat. I'll try to see if maybe I can mock up a I love Sam Darnold hat because he's a very anti-Sam Darnold guy, Brendan. He can't be sold on him. Darren Toy, thank you for the $2 donation. Darren says, go Hawks from San Fran Fire Station 9. Well, thank you for that, Darren. Hope you're having a good one out there and staying safe out there in the fire station. No horrible fires out there. San Francisco's had a famous one, that famous San Francisco fire. But thank you, man. Appreciate you watching and tuning in the channel. And thank you for the donation. Phoebe, thank you for the $2 don't know. Says, where did this elite pass rush from D-Law come from?
Well, I mean, D-Law has been this good as a pass rusher before, but it was a long time ago, and you definitely didn't think it was ever going to come back. He's 34 years old. Like this is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. Guys don't tend to have this reinvigoration of their career this deep into it. Feed me. I think there's a couple of contributing factors. Number one, I think in both a guy like him and Leonard Williams, I feel, and 2 guys that have not had any real success in the NFL from a team-based standpoint, who are as hungry for it as I think you possibly can be and want it. I think that's the first part of it. This guy came here. He told us this is one of the reasons he came here is I want to go win a Super Bowl. I think players say this a lot. And sometimes we go, yeah. And you roll your eyes and you're like, he's BSing us. I think he meant it. I think Leonard Williams means it. And I think that's a part of that is that you're getting these guys motivated at a level where they understand that their football life is not going to last forever and that it's winding down and their opportunities are winding down. And do you take full advantage of that and do everything you possibly can to try to maximize that? I think these guys are. And the other part of it is that you've been able to keep his snap count down. I think with the Cowboys and through his years there, that there was a lot of just keep running him out there, running him out there. They don't have the greatest of rotations. I think you got him wore down a bit. I think that contributed to the injury front of things. I think here you've been able to manage that load and not only allow him to perform at his best, but now be still fresh as we get down the home stretch of the season.
Right. Imagine if we get to the playoffs here, the NFC title game is Seattle, Green Bay, and Dallas doesn't make it, and they got to watch Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence in the NFC title game. Feels like it could happen too. Feels like a realistic possibility.
I think they're on the outside looking in from the Niners' perspective on this one. They've got a relatively easy schedule, but they put themselves so far behind the 8 ball in this one as it
You
stands
meant
right now that
you meant Cowboys, right? You said Niners.
yeah. Sorry, I meant the Cowboys. Yeah, the Cowboys put
Yeah.
themselves on that 8 ball with this because as I run the numbers and the math on this, I just don't know that there's a pathway for them unless some team really falls back in a major way over the next couple of weeks.
I'm terrified of them though. If they make it, like they got 2 elite receivers now catching the ball from an elite quarterback, and that defensive line, I'm like, I do not want to deal with that Dallas team with Quentin Williams now. I'm really hoping they get left out. I do not want to handle that team. I'm terrified of George Pickens. I'm sorry.
Well, they're coming along and they're good. So it's definitely a scary team that's on the rise here. We'll see if they can sneak their way on in. But I just think you're going to end up with one team that we got 2 teams in our division that are going to go. How many wild card teams are there? 3?
Yeah, there are 3 wild cards. We're going to have Rams, Niners, Seahawks. So only 1 wild card left, and it's probably going to be Green Bay. You're right. It's an uphill battle, but let Detroit get in there. Like I think that Detroit.
I know. I don't want Green Bay in there either, man. I don't want Green Bay, like Detroit all day, especially no Frank Ragnow now with him not coming back. Like
no Kirby Joseph, he's out, right? No Sam Laporta. I think that team's getting destroyed if they make the playoffs somehow. I think they're just toast.
I think that way about them and the Niners. And the Niners make the playoffs, they're going to have the same thing where they will face reality real quick at that point if they get their way in. So I'd love to see both those 2 teams get in, and Green Bay, and they win that division. You got to go in Lambeau. We've done that in the past in the playoffs. That sucks. I don't want to do that again. No. Thank you.
Let's play Detroit round 1, and I think we're winning like 40-7 or something.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think we take it to them with where that team is at. It's not as strong as they've been in recent years at all.
Yeah.
Richard Stewartson, thank you for the $10 super sticker. Appreciate you for that, Richard. The double donation today, man. Thank you so much. Very, very, very kind of you. And,
thank you, Richard.
Appreciate you. Feed me. Thank you for another $2 donation. Packers defensive coordinator was the Boston C head coach, and he's doing fine.
Hold on, let me see. Packers DC is, who is it here? Jeff Hafley. Okay, I've heard that name a lot recently. He was the head coach at Boston College, so it's Boston College. That's what Boston C is, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I mean, okay, but I think defense is a little different. Like, you have this spread offense stuff that's a fad in college that doesn't work in the NFL. You don't really have like a spread defense in college that doesn't work in the NFL, do you? Like you got wide 9 works in the NFL, more or less.
Yeah, I think Brandon's kind of on the point with this one, Feed me, in that the defenses college to foot NFL are very similar. There's not the wide difference versus there being the very wide difference in the college offenses versus the pro style offenses. So it mainly what I was referencing on that, Feed me, would be it was exactly what I was referencing was offensive coordinators specifically coming up from the college scheme, because the game changes so much to the pro level from the college level. But like Brendan just said, it's you run a 3-4 in college, you run a 3-4 in the pros. You run a nickel with the weird nickel we see now with the wide 9 and the 4-3 interior defensive tackles and how they play it. You're seeing that in college as well. So it's all like for like a little bit there, and easier probably to make that transition. PGZ, thank you for the $5 donation. PGZ says, afternoon, fellas. Doug Baldwin came into my bank today and denied me an autograph. Laughing out loud. I still love him. Go Hawks. Yeah. Oh, come on, Doug. Come on, Doug. That's cold-blooded, man. You got to give him just an autograph? No. Does kind of fit the angry Doug, though, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes you meet your favorite athlete or whatever in real life, and the experience is exactly what you expect it would be. And sometimes that experience isn't the greatest thing, but it ends up being kind of exactly what you had in your mind. Like there was a story a couple months ago about I think it was a Trailblazers fan who ran into Rasheed Wallace in public. And he went up to Rasheed Wallace and was like, I'm a big fan. And Rasheed was like, get the hell out of here. And basically just shoved him away. And he was like, that was exactly what I thought was going to happen. It was great. He basically just told him, get the F out of here, and smacked him to the side.
I mean, I get it on that too. I do think athletes need to understand that this is a bit of the process you sign up to, that this is going to happen. And rather than like, like come on, like just be cool. And it takes 2 seconds. And I know it's a pain in the butt, but this is kind of what comes with the territory a little bit too, I would think. So I don't know. It's kind of weird there. Quinn will get it done. Thank you for the $5 donation, Quinn. Which candidates for head coach this year are definitively above Kubiak for other teams? Definitively?
I don't know that there isn't, like, what if Steve Sarkisian wants to be an NFL head coach? Maybe him. That's it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, but is he definitively above Kubiak? I don't know that he is. That's a guy with 1 year of OC experience with the Falcons, and it sucked. He was exactly the thing we're talking about with these college coordinators. That was the problem there.
We know Dan Lanning's not going. We know that the Indiana Kurt Cignetti is not coming. We know that Ryan Day's not coming, I think. So who's left? I mean, nobody from college. So I think McCarthy might be more appealing to a certain team like the Titans, somebody that just wants stability. But to most teams, I think Kubiak is more appealing. I don't think Belichick's appealing at all anymore. This is tough. Maybe somebody like Stenovich from Green Bay or Udinsky from Jacksonville, but I don't know if they're more appealing.
Yeah, I don't think there's one that the word definitive is the important one in your question there, Quinn. And I don't think that there is a definitive OC out there or outside of a McCarthy, a guy that's going to be looked at that you could say definitively is above Kubiak. I think you'd have guys that you could make as strong an argument for Kubiak, a Joe Brady type, let's say with the Buffalo Bills, but nobody that you could say outright supersedes him from a resume standpoint. And part of this goes back to Brendan's original point on this being that we're just at an age right now where there's not as many of those bright, shiny candidates out there on the offensive side of the ball that are proliferated throughout the sport waiting to be given a job. Felt like it was maybe a little bit that way 4 or 5 years ago, but it has cooled down. And maybe some of the guys like a Mike Kafka that you thought were going to be the risers and getting really hot have kind of settled down and closed off. The Minnesota Viking, I think you mentioned him, the hot trot kid that everybody was like, this guy's on a fast path to getting a head coaching job. He's another guy that's been mentioned. All that's got a little bit quiet. So he's got as good a name out there as anybody, Quinn. I think as the only other guys you'd say would supersede it would be the retreads. So is it a Tomlin? Is it a LaFleur that's let go on the open market? Is it a Dable that's out there? Do those guys be looked at? And hard to say on that with how the NFL views those guys. And I think LaFleur gets another job. I'm not sure on Tomlin. Hard to say on that one because hasn't had a playoff win since 2017. I mean, it might be just where they're like long time without any success.
I actually don't think Tomlin gets fired. I actually don't. I think it's on the table, but if I had to guess, I'd say he stays. I think Pittsburgh is just in that place where they're like, he has a lifetime contract. We don't care. Deal with it. We love him. We don't care. I really do. That's the vibe I've always gotten.
Well, in my lifetime, and they are a team that's run from an ownership standpoint pretty much the same way for decade on decade. My lifetime, I've seen 3 head coaches in Pittsburgh. So to your point, they're not one that tends to move fast or quickly off guys. They're going to wait a little bit. They certainly did with Chuck Noll a little bit at the end of his run there. But I think certainly he's going to have a good shot as anybody as Kubiak. Slowby one asked with a $2 donation, wait, Todd Monken doesn't exist now? Well, I would just offer that Ravens offense is performing at as worst a rate as we've seen from them in the time that Todd Monken's been there. So
I mean, if you're talking about Monken, you're kind of taking his Georgia stuff and you're saying like, okay, this is what we're basing it off of, I think, because what happened in Baltimore, I mean, it's been good, but there have also been times where it's not been good. I don't know how excited I am about that. I think that I don't know if it's better than Kubiak.
Yeah, I don't know either. And that's where we come back to that definitive thing, Slowby one on, is it definitive? No. And again, as a guy gets longer in there, I mean, we had this happen with Slowick with Houston, right? Where Slowick in 1 year is looked at as the next head coaching guy. And then the year after that, he's fired. And that your stock can go up, but as an OC, it doesn't just keep going up. That there are times where you can hit a pothole in the road, and now you're suddenly starting to dip down reputationally wise a little bit. So not that Todd isn't potentially still a good coordinator, but I don't know if his work this year is going to derive a lot of people calling him to be looking for him to be getting the head coaching job.
Yeah. I could be talked into Saleh being a better candidate.
I'm with
than
that. That's a great pull. Saleh would be one of the definitive ones, Quinn. Back to Quinn's question on that. That's a great pull, Brendan.
Yeah. Like, I think that, first of all, Saleh should easily win assistant coach of the year. They've been doing that award for a few years now. I think Ben Johnson won it last year. Saleh should be running away with that. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yes, 100%.
Jesse Minter, I guess, is another one. I don't think he's better than Kubiak, but he's probably about as good.
Maybe a guy that'll get a little bit of show out there with this defense, especially in vogue.
Yeah, and Shula in LA, I think is probably pretty appealing as well, but I don't think he's better either. I think he's about as good.
Yeah, certainly guys will be looked at. That's for sure on that. But I think Saleh definitely gets a job this offseason with the job he's done. It's been so impressive. Roy Froelich asks with a $5 donation on your side. Thank you for that, Roy. What positions are strong in the upcoming draft?
I like receiver and I like corner, but the thing is, those positions are almost always strong in every draft because so many teams are running the spread and so many defenses have to learn how to combat it if they want to be good. So I feel like that's kind of like not really fair because I think that's always going to be the case almost. You're always going to have a really good receiver. You're always going to have really good corners. Other than that, I think running back is good. I don't know if I'd call it strong. And I wouldn't even call edge strong. I think edge is kind of average. So I don't really know other than that. Maybe inside linebacker because the two Ohio State guys are considered super blue chippers.
You got Anthony Hill out of Texas as well. So I think you captured the three there appropriately. I think it's wide receiver. I think it's corner. And I think it's off ball inside linebacker, Roy, are the three that I have early on gravitated towards. Me and Brendan are still getting into our, we're just starting to dive into our draft coverage stuff. So, we've got quite a bit of work to do to kind of keep an eye on that to see where it all fully settles out. But the initial kind of peek in and taking a look at it, that's been my takeaway. And again, coming back to this too, Roy, this is a weak draft. I'm looking at some of these guys and the guys that are looked at as top guys, and it's going to be a weaker draft, not just as a narrative and how that's hitting out there, but in actuality. And so it's going to be hard to find kind of the same finds that we found in recent years here in some of these drafts, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a reason why we tried to give away all our draft picks for Max Crosby. I don't think it was just because of Crosby. It was because this draft is not really all that appealing.
It isn't. It sucks to see. It'd be cool if it's always funner when it's a little bit stronger of a draft, but is what it is, so you're gonna have to navigate your way through that. From a Seahawks perspective, good news is that they might be looking at receiver and cornerback. So maybe the depth of this draft aligns to what they will need to target potentially. We shall see on that.
Yeah, I think that, by the way, don't be shocked if we still end up giving up our first round pick in this draft for Max Crosby before the draft, because I do think
they're going to make a run. Yeah,
I think Schneider does not value this draft, and I think that's he's kind of showing his hand there.
And the thing that came out this year that I thought I had forgotten a little bit about a detail of him is that he is a guy that does pursue and pursue and pursue. So just because you say no to him on a guy, if he gets hot to trot on a given guy, he'll stay on top of it and keep coming back to that general manager. So he was trying to trade for Marshawn Lynch multiple times over. He was trying to trade for Percy Harvin multiple times over before he actually got a trade made and materialized. And so with Max and getting it very close this offseason, I would estimate he comes back again this offseason, makes a heavy run at him once again. And at that point, I think Oakland will be, or Las Vegas will be a lot more open to making that move at that time.
Yeah, I agree.
Holy Stand Grenade, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, can we send Bradford to the moon, please? Boy, he's definitely getting banged around by the fan base quite a bit, isn't he, Brandon?
Yeah, it's migrated to TikTok. How often do you see a low light reel for an offensive lineman? Usually, it's like a quarterback or a wide receiver or something. It's not a right guard. Like, this is getting kind of goofy.
It is. And I think the thing somebody showed it that cut up here on YouTube today that's, I think, shows kind of part of the thing with this is that though the low lights are there, there's also highlights and there's also stuff that he's doing good to the other side. I think that you just have such a variance between him and you want more of a middle of the road at times, and you're just not getting that from him from a fan perspective. But there's nothing we can really do about this right now. People keep getting caught up on Christian Haynes or Jalen Sundell, and I understand you're tired of watching this performance. You want to see improvement. This is why in the offseason, me and Brendan hammer the offensive line, because that is the time to fix it, not when you're into week 12 or 13 of an NFL season and you didn't do enough in the offseason, and now you're trying to talk yourself into this guy and you're trying to talk yourself into that guy. So the team just has to deal with it this offseason in a major way to get this handled. But Bradford's not quite as bad, I think, as somewhat of the fan base has gotten to on the narrative on this one. Certainly the low lights are horrible, and he whiffs, and he has some bad plays that are as bad as you will see from the offensive line position. But he's got some good plays too. He's got some dominant reps in there as well that he mixes in throughout the course of the game. It's just going to be a bit of a buffet. You're going to get a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything from Bradford.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Gray Zabel's making mistakes too, right? But his mistakes, they look kind of normal. They're like, oh, I barely even noticed that. I had to watch it on replay a couple times to even notice the mistake. But then you see Bradford and he's like jumping out of your TV screen, right? It's in your lap. And again, there are other players, even good players on this team, like Nick Eamon-Warry and Byron Murphy. I know they make mistakes too, but when they make their mistakes, they don't jump out of your TV screen and kick you in the face. They just make the mistake.
Well, to your point, Brendan, on this, to your point on this Charbonnet run for a touchdown, this is a touchdown run. Watch Gray Zabel on this play. Okay, so he's losing the block, but this is to your point, and this is that Gray loses it with a little bit of initial win. Initially, I can get the hat on the hat, but I'll lose it. And that's a lot of what you get with Gray Zabel. This is why people lament with Gray on his scores. Why is his score so low? Because, yeah, he gets initial win, but he'll get the loss a lot. Guys will slide off the block a lot in the run game. Bradford will just get the complete whiff. And so you want that little sustainment. If you're going to have the loss, you don't want to have the complete whiff. It's the worst part of what shows up in his game. It is a part and parcel what you get with Bradford, but we're just going to have to kind of ride, I think, with the ups and downs of this throughout the year. Because I come back to this again, Brendan, saying if the point of this was that Haynes or Sundell was the better option, you would have run with that option prior to this point. I know Bradford had the injury, but before Bradford had the injury, or Haynes had the injury, but before Haynes had the injury in training camp, he was being trotted out there as a center. So the teams told you already on this one that we kind of know Bradford's not the answer. We didn't do enough this offseason. We kind of short-sold it as we've done through many off seasons. The guys that we brought in to try out there, being a Haynes, hasn't worked. We're just going to have to kind of like punt this through to get this to the other side and hope we can get it rectified this offseason. So I get that it's bad, but it kind of is what it is too. Their hand grenade where we're going to be stuck with this through the rest of the year a little bit.
And every team has some guys that are not pulling their weight, even the really, really good teams. Like, the Rams, look at what Emmanuel Forbes did in that Carolina game. And he's not a good player, but they lean on him. And sometimes he does play well for them. And they're just going to hope they can get through the season without him costing them a playoff game.
That's right. Upa with another $5 donation over on your side says, I know I'm a week late, but is Cam Ward the best 1-11 quarterback of all time? I'd trade the farm for that guy. A Marshawn Lynch situation? Make it happen, Jess.
I did see a tweet from Polymarket earlier today, and it's Polymarket, so you don't have to take it super seriously. But what it said was the Titans are not ruling out taking a quarterback in this draft, which, I mean, I have to believe that's clickbait, but it did kind of make me think that, like, maybe they don't love this guy. Maybe Cam Ward was the guy that Callahan loved, and the new head coach they bring in won't. Stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to pair a coach where you walk him in and you say, you have to take this guy on and you have to make this guy work. And the coach is like, I kind of okay with that. Like this happened to Gannon with Kyler Murray. He walks in and you're going to accept Kyler. I don't really like that. Tough. Do you want the head coaching job or not? I guess I love Kyler Murray. You don't want to do that to a new guy you bring in. You want them to have their pick. It would be weird for them to do that in a year where the quarterback class is not exactly looking stellar. I think Cam's got everybody outpaced in this draft from a talent standpoint, in my opinion. But yeah, he's probably one of the best all-time 1-11 quarterbacks for sure. He's the truth. He played a great game against us. It was that's as hard a game as you're going to have to play from a rookie quarterback position. 40 pressures on 42 passing attempts. Not an easy day at the office, especially without any receivers and a piss poor offensive line, a bad defense. But I think he is the truth, and I think he's going to be a good player in this league.
Yeah, I imagine that he will be good. Other 1-11 quarterbacks, it doesn't happen very often. Like maybe Peyton Manning was 1-11 that rookie year. Maybe.
I was thinking that too. Yeah, I don't think they won. I think they won more than one game, but they
Yeah,
were
they went
good.
3-13, but maybe they were 1-11 at one point. I don't know.
It's possible. Definitely
Mhm.
possible with that one.
Weren't the
But
Seahawks
he's
like,
awesome.
weren't the Seahawks really, really bad Rick Myers rookie year? Because he did win rookie of the year, I think. But I don't
Yep.
think we were 1-11.
2-14. You ended up. You might have been 1-11. You ended up at 2-14, I think, that year. So you
Mm.
might have just been 1-11 on that one. So
Yeah.
is that
It's
right?
hard
I
to
think
it's
you
hard
got
to be
that
that
right.
bad. It's hard to be that bad.
Can't
And
remember.
remember, it's a complete fluke. They're not 0-12. Complete fluke.
It's true. Very true. But thank you, Upo. Appreciate the donation. And I don't think you're going to see the Titans move him after just 1 year. That's a very unusual situation, especially for having a successful year on a bad team like he has. I'd be blown away to see them do that. But NFL's
Right.
weird. You never know. And Brendan's point about a new coach coming in there, and do you want to force him to take this quarterback on that he may or may not be in favor of? It's a good question to ask on that. Well, let's turn this over here, Brendan, to the Falcons game. And thank you, everybody, for all the donations. We just got all caught up. And let's take a look at here this Falcon team. It's a team that has got some guys in IR on the defense. They're not awful in an injury standpoint, but a few injuries. It's been a team that went for broke, trade their first round pick this offseason to the Rams because they thought this year they would be a contender. And Brendan, they have not been a contender. What is
Yep.
your outlook on where it's gone wrong for the Falcons this year?
Sometimes you just have to go all in when you're holding 8-4 offsuit, I guess. Sometimes you just can't resist.
I guess not, man. I guess not. Come on,
Yeah.
River.
Yeah,
Come on, River.
if a good player does it, it's called balance. If a bad player does it, it's called bad play. But if a good player does it, you just say, "Oh, he's balancing." By the way, that's
Yeah.
every time you see a good poker player do something bad, you just say, "Oh, he's balancing," and it's like a catch-all. Don't even think about it.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, it's really, really strange. You mentioned Raheem Morris earlier. I do think he's probably pretty bad at this. I don't think he's really cut out to be a coach. He's a great interviewer, apparently. I guess he's really good at those interviews, but not a good coach. Not a good coach at all. Obviously, Caleb McGarry going down before the season even started kind of set them off on a bad first step. Caleb McGarry, one of the best right tackles in the league, and a big part of what they're trying to do. Kyle Pitts still isn't the Kyle Pitts that they were hoping they were going to get, and he's basically their number 2 receiver. So their offense, which has some talent, is not as stacked as you would have thought. I think those are probably the main things I would point to as of right now, because you look at it, Bijan's been great. Like you were talking about Bijan a little bit earlier. He's been awesome for them, probably a top 3 running back in the league right now. And I don't hate the way their defense plays. They do some really cool stuff on that side. They're probably a little bit light up front, which is why they get run on. But I love the fact that they have near the league lead in sacks. They have like 41 sacks. And no one player has more than 6 sacks. So they get it from everywhere. Everybody's chipping in. It's kind of like our defense in that way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
very, very.
Yeah, very much spreading it around. But other than that, I don't know. It's like sometimes this team goes out there and looks great. Remember, they blew out Buffalo in a primetime game. They were kind of the first team to really set JJ McCarthy off on the wrong path when they beat him up in week 2. And there are moments, but it's I think it just kind of goes back to that whole thing of they're not really as stacked offensively as you would have thought before the season started.
Yeah, it's definitely like Drew Dalman was a loss you had in free agency too this year. He's been so good for Chicago. I think that this Falcon team feels that with the combination of Caleb McGarry. I mean, you put Penix behind this line. Part of it with the hope was that you're putting him behind the grade A offensive line to keep him protected, so you don't shred his ACL once again by having too much pressure, which you kind of opened the door up with by having this team in the place where they're at, which was kind of unfortunate. Let's turn it to the defensive side of the ball first thing on this, Brendan. But let's first give a shout out to the sponsor of the show here.
All right.
The sponsor of the show is going to be the Sleeper app.
That's right.
And Brendan will let you know about Sleeper as I get this rolling.
All right. Well, Sleeper is the best app out there right now for daily fantasy. Get on over there right now. You can pick over-unders on all kinds of fun stuff, not just in football, by the way. Obviously, we're all about football around here, but there are plenty of other sports you can do. There's real-time chat. There's live stats. There's a news feed, so you can keep up on all kinds of sports stuff, even outside the context of daily fantasy. But get on over there. Remember to use a promo code. We have NEST or SBN, either code you want to use. You're going to get 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. So get on over to Sleeper, give them a shot, and enjoy sports the way they were meant to be enjoyed in 2025.
Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. You can see here on my picks this week, we got a 50% profit boost that they're throwing out there on top of it. Part of why I love this app is they've got a lot of these little individual items to make it just a little bit better than your average app on that side of it. I got Kenneth Walker going over 60.5 yards in this game. Bijan Robinson going over 66.5. He ran for 120 last year against this defense. Kyron Williams coming back with the Rams. They didn't run the ball enough against Carolina. They doubled back down to running the ball this week, in my opinion. He gets both a touchdown and over 66.5 yards as well.
Mhm.
Like my picks, Brendan?
Yeah. I feel like that's probably pretty good. I mean, Bijan 66.5 seems low for him. He's really good. I know we got a good run defense, but that seems a little bit low.
It does to me too, especially considering he had the success he did last year against this defense, which, it's got a couple parts added, but by and large, much of the same defense you're going to be putting out there this, upcoming week. So you can take a $5 bet here with that 50% profit boost, and it can be moved all the way up to a $50 win if I'm able to get this ticket to cash on in. So please do utilize Sleeper today, as they've been so kind to sponsor both me and Brendan. Again, using either of our code, SBN or NEST. And there's just one other extra where they will also give you a free, no deposit needed, just create a login and they will put $20 into your account. So $120 from me and Brendan to you, and you show some love to the channel at the very same time. Please utilize Sleeper today.
Yeah, do it for the people.
Do it for the people, baby. Do it for the people. All right, let's take a look here at our I'm going to go defense first here. Let's go Falcons defense, and then we'll get to their offense, because the defense is a little bit more. If I can do this right, I will just show it up like this. I don't know why it's not showing the way. Do this. No, that don't work. Okay, we'll do it this way. We can show it. So Falcons defense this year, Brendan, coming into this, they're passing on the Vikings is at the 8th lowest point in the NFL. Some of this is that you're behind in football games, and so you're ahead in football games against this Falcon team on a lot of the games, and you're going to be running the ball a lot. Some of it's also just this is how teams attack them. They're 28th in rush EPA per play, defensively speaking. Seahawks are number 1, of course. So if you're looking for a game where that rushing attack, Brendan, can continue to take steps forward, kind of looks like this would be the week, huh? Based on that alone there.
And they may not have 2 of their key defensive linemen. Brandon Dorless did not practice yesterday, and neither did Onyemata.
And as Brendan was talking about earlier on this, very key point with this is that this is also a team that is a little bit light when it comes to the they're a little bit light when it comes to the to their defensive line. Brendan was speaking about this. If you look at them, they don't got really the big one tech 330-pound guy, the guy that's going to be stout at the point of attack, taking on double teams. They're a little light. I mean, they kind of quasi run a couple of 3 techs out there for you. And this is, I think, part of why teams have been able to find so much success, Brendan, in running the ball on them.
Yeah. I think it was Jonathan Taylor had almost 300 yards on them in Berlin. Like, that's the kind of stuff you can do on this Atlanta team right now.
It is. They are allowing the 11th lowest average separation on routes run. So AJ Terrell and Hughes out there, the cornerbacks are doing a good job. Their nickel defender's been pretty good, but they are beat up there at their nickel position as well. Clark Phillips down, Brendan. So we're not going to get a replay of JSN and his 300-yard game back against Utah in the Rose Bowl against Clark. He toasted that guy that day. Toasted him.
All time.
Kind of the cool part about that day, Brendan, is not only did he have a great day, but he did it against a guy that was going to be an NFL corner too, as well.
Right.
It wasn't just against a guy at Utah that's going to be a, factory worker or whatever down the line. Like, he did against somebody who was legit.
Yeah. George Mike plays 60 on future milkmen.
That's right. Exactly. There's guys that do that. They are really good in pressure, first in pressure, while Seattle first in time to pressure, while Seattle's a little bit of a slow, they're a high pressure team, but it's slow the pressure to get there. So one of the places that I am concerned in this game, Brendan, as far as this matchup, is that when the Falcons, not only do they create pressure, and it's on the back, as you can see below on this, if they've got the second highest blitz rate in the NFL, so they oftentimes are doing it on the back of sending extra, but they get there fast, not slow. And that's going to be where we saw last week, the Vikings getting there so fast, how many problems that provided our offense, especially getting into those passing lanes. It's one place I'm a little bit worried coming into this game, Brendan.
Yeah, that is something. I will say I think this Seattle team has done a pretty good job of beating the blitz this year in general. Minnesota, that Minnesota game was a little bit of an aberration. So if they want to send the house, then I'm willing to take that risk. But at the same time, I am hoping that Seattle learned from that game against Minnesota, and they are going to have options for Darnold to get the ball out of his hands quickly, because this paints a very clear picture of what Atlanta likes to do.
It really does. And that's going to be the key on getting this defense, is how you deal with that blitz, how you deal with that pressure. Especially like Brendan said last week, didn't do a very good job on that. The team is also fifth in limiting yak. So both they allow very little separation in the routes, and they also limit down the yak on both of those two accounts. I don't think Seattle's really reliant necessarily on either of those two things necessarily from their receiver core, but interesting nonetheless. They're also 12th in EPA against the pass, EPA per play against the pass. So that's on the better side of things. So they're pretty good about defending the pass, is what I'm saying. They get pressure. They don't allow a lot of separation. They don't allow a lot of yak. They don't give a lot of yards up necessarily in the air, and how that they've structured up while blitzing at a high rate, which is pretty cool for them on how they've been able to do that. They are 15th in stack box rate and 17th in light box rate. So you're really not getting a team that's leaning heavily on either stack boxes or light boxes. You're going to get a decent amount of neutral from them in the way that they're going to play that. But you see this data, Brendan, and what does this data tell you about how you've got to attack this Falcon defense?
I think you got to run the ball. I think that you run the ball and good things are going to happen. I will say, playing in that Atlanta dome, you can kind of turn the game into a track meet sometimes, but I don't know if the formula is there for that. You know that they're probably going to be hanging back. They're going to have two high safeties because of the Shaheed factor. So I think you got to just keep grinding on that until they do something different. And as this game goes on, maybe they do start stacking the box a little bit more. If you can get up and you're really working the ball well on the ground, and then maybe you can take some shots. And again, the blitzes are going to leave them vulnerable to maybe you making a big play down the field. But I'm trying to run the ball until they make me do something else.
And I don't know if it was a factor last week, Brendan, but it's a place that I think about coming into this game. Whereas if I'm anticipating a team that's blitzing at this high of a rate, I've got to, from a Kubiak standpoint, get that play call into Sam early in the play clock and give him an opportunity to get up to the line of scrimmage and be able to have that little bit of an extra beat of time to read what's coming up in front of me, to be able to change protections, to be able to maybe catch them showing their hand on the blitz a little bit early when they're going to blitz that much. Because if you can catch the hand of the blitz, if you can see where it's coming from, makes it so much supremely easier to then be able to have the protections in place and have an answer on a hot route that you can go get to versus trying to get up there fast and right as the play clock's kind of winding down and trying to get the snap off.
Yeah, I like that too. I feel like we've kind of gotten away from that in recent weeks just a little bit. So I like that idea. And overall, we're talking about all this stuff with this defense. It's still not a very good defense, I don't think. So I'm liking our odds, but if you're saying what we're supposed to do specifically here, I think you got to keep running the ball. And we're trying to get to a place where the run game is really, really good and dependable by the time you get to January.
100%. And I think you got to flex into a little more of the screen game. We didn't work a little bit of that until the second half of that Vikings game. I think you got to work that in here, Brendan, as well. The throws out to the flat in space to guys like Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet and let him just work in space at times and embracing that, as we saw in the second half of the game last week. Utilize these concepts early is kind of what I'm saying, Brendan. Don't do this late in games. Get this right from the jump. Have this built in. And because you can anticipate this from the Vikings because there is such a high frequency in how much they're going to try to bring that pressure fronts up at you.
Yeah, and if they don't have Dorless or Onyemata, then they're going to be scrambling a little bit on that defensive line. Those two guys, I think Dorless plays about 30 snaps a game, and I think Onyemata plays close to 40. So they need those guys.
If you can, really quickly, I got to use the bathroom real quick. Talk a little bit about Xavier Watts and Jesse Bates here from the safety position for the Falcons. Right back.
Right. So I think that Jesse Bates was a former stud safety for the Cincinnati Bengals when they went to the Super Bowl. So he was a very good player. And he got a big free agency contract a few years ago when he left Cincinnati. I don't think he's been quite as high profile since then. He's still certainly a good player, certainly one of the better safeties in the league, but I don't think he's been quite as recognizable since leaving Cincinnati. He was actually on the team the 2 years they went to the AFC title game, and since then they haven't even made the playoffs, so they do miss him, but he has been definitely very good in Atlanta, and I think that you have to be very aware of him, even as if the Falcons are in single high. You have to be very aware of the fact that he might be able to make a big play in coverage. And Xavier Watts, I know a little bit less about, but I do know that this safety tandem is pretty good overall. I think that my main focus is Jesse Bates because he is kind of I don't know if he's a superstar, but I do think he's a star in his prime. And he's part of the reason why Atlanta feels liberated to send as many blitzes as they do, I think.
With the safety play back there and Bates and Watts.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about Bates. He was a starter on the Cincy defense back when they made back-to-back AFC title games. And he actually made a Pro Bowl in Atlanta. So I know he hasn't been quite as big a name since going to Atlanta, but he has been he's still a very good player. And even when Atlanta's in single high, I think you have to be very wary of him. You can't just attack him because, they got single high and think everything's going to work out.
No, you got a couple playmakers back there, and for a guy in Darnold, at times has had some moments of being picked off, and safety's given him some issues at times. Something that he's got to be aware of back there. We like Xavier Watts coming out. He's got 3 interceptions this year. Mm-hmm. He's been a bit of a playmaker for them. He looks like the real deal for them at that position. So something that Sam's going to have to be mindful in this particular game and how he operates. But again, I think if you have a lot of the passing offense that's really structured around, somewhat lowering down the passing volume approach, because to your point, you want to really run the ball at the forefront here, and then having the real purposeful throws where it throws to the flat, screen plays, some real, rollouts out in space, play action, give him some stuff that's going to be a bit more easier set up in this game. Because I don't think you have to do as much heavy lifting in the passing attack in this one to get this win, Brendan. I think you can lean a little bit more versus some of the other matchups this year in this game on the running game. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think that you keep it simple in this game. I don't know what Atlanta's really going to be able to do. I don't even know who their off-ball linebackers are off the top of my head. I know they run that 3-4, but who are their off-ball linebackers this year? I actually, off the top of my head, don't know their names.
So Anderson, the kid that we liked a lot from Montana State, just cannot seem to stay healthy for them, that they drafted to be that guy for them in the middle. And so they brought in one of the all-time great football names in there, Divine Diablo, when the Raiders came in there, and he's kind of their middle linebacker there, but the guy is super light. So this is where we come back to why you can attack them in the run game is he tends to be a light guy. And I think they got like Caden Ellis, who's a little bit of a bigger linebacker, kind of edge guy there at the will. But you're definitely, Divine's having a good year for them. Don't get me wrong. And he's a guy that can give you a lot of things where he can do some stuff in coverage because he's fleet of foot, but he is a little bit lighter. And you can get downhill on him, and you can get a guy like a Zabel up on him, or you get a Bradford up on him, and he can get kind of swallowed up at times. Part of the reasons that they've had the struggles there in the run game, and the plan was always Ryan Anderson. That was the guy that you wanted, and he just hasn't been able to make it go there for them. So they're having to kind of go to option 2. But Diablo's been well graded. He's played pretty good football for him, but there's also those moments where I think you can kind of get after them. And to your point, these aren't top end inside linebackers that you're seeing playing for them right now. They're just kind of, Diablo's having a good year, but still kind of just a couple guys there at the position.
Yeah. So keep it simple, and I think good things are going to happen.
Let's move it over here then. Let's get on over to the defensive side of the ball against this Falcons offense, Brendan. And again, like the defense, I think you said it yourself on this, kind of tells a clear story about how you have to attack based on some of these bottom line statistics. I think very much the same thing about this offensively and what you're trying to take away and where you're not as scared from. Falcons offense is 14th in pressure rate this year, middle of the road. So they don't give up a ton of pressure, right dead center. Team rushing EPA per play. I was thrown off by this one, Brendan. They're only 18th with how effective Algiers and Bijan Robinson can be. You're still only 18th in your rushing EPA. Kind of strange.
Fascinating.
13th. Yeah, kind of fascinating on that one. I thought at least that's top 10 all day, at least. They were 13th in time to throw. So middle of the road there, 2.8 seconds. They get the ball out of their hand relatively quick. A lot of middle of the road stats here in general terms, 16th in blitz rate against them, 15th in average target separation. So their guys don't create a lot of separation, right about middle of the road. 17 the yak, right about middle of the road. They get the light box, and this is the important one for me, Brendan. They face a light box at the 9th highest rate in the NFL. So teams aren't stacking the boxes. You can see the stack box rate is at 26, super low. So light boxes are best suited to playing this Falcons team based on stylistically, Brendan, how you would how you'd play this Atlanta team based on where they're susceptible. You have a Seattle Seahawks team that's one of the league leaders and just generally running light boxes defensively by how they want to run it. Looks like to me on the surface of this is not a good day at the office for the Falcons team, being that's how you structure to come at teams naturally. And that's also where they seem to be weak with teams that can run it that way. You see it the same way?
I do, although I also have to ask, how much of this do you like? How much of this stuff is applicable given the fact that they played most of the season with Penix and now they have Kirk Cousins? Feels like things change a little bit, even though I don't think Penix was playing very good, and I don't think Cousins has been as terrible as you might have expected. I think having the different quarterback, I do wonder how much that changes the way in which they're going to play this game.
The main couple of places are Penix still had not developed the under center footwork, which kind of blows me away that he didn't spend like all last year just under center working on that, because with Bijan, the running backs that you have, this offense has got to embrace under center and play action stuff. It just has to. And what they did with him instead is they ran a lot of the pistol look stuff with Penix throughout the course of this year from his Washington days, which of course he did a lot with Grubb. That's what he's comfortable with, but it's not what's maybe best for that offense. Cousins last year with the Achilles, I guess, wasn't healthy enough to really run under center play action stuff. So there has not really been a big change offensively from them, with one exception being much more under center play action that they had run, prior. But we've been defending that so good. And it feels like a couple of weeks ago, we found a way defensively to make this adjustment where we can just attack the quarterback on play action. Like we have got something structured up defensively to where we just we're not worried about, and maybe being a better running team takes this away, where that unblocked edge now has to kind of hold the line on the run play, scrape down the line and be aware of it. But you saw it even again last week with the DeMarcus Lawrence play, Brennan, where it's a 4th and 1. Run plays in play. He ain't playing the run there. Now, does he hit some pre-snap read he sees? And Mike McDonald talked about that there was some pre-snap indicator that allowed him to be told it's a pass. But what did you see him do, Brennan? Did he attack down in the run, or did he go right after the quarterback on that play on play action?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. You're right, because that was play action. And yeah, D-Law did not hesitate at all, like he knew. So,
and it's what we did to Stafford a couple weeks ago. Stafford, they loved their play action game. We just kept attacking Stafford off the rip, where he'd turn around and there'd be a guy right in his face and he'd have to throw it in the dirt. They're getting away with it. They've got some way they can still structure to do it, but that's where I think it'll be hard for Cousins, because I think he's in a pickle in this game, Brennan, where the quarterbacks that do find success against Seahawks to me are the ones that have a little bit of mobility, where they can extend off script, where they can improvise, where they can get away from danger. A Brock Purdy or a Mayfield type this year that have been able to kind of, get us a little bit in that way. You don't have that with Cousins, man. He can't get away from a slow moving tugboat, much less this front and this defensive line that we're going to be throwing at him.
Yeah. It is very interesting. It seems like one of those market inefficiencies that the really good coaches and the really good teams pick up on before everybody else. And they're just able to ride it for a little while. Like a couple of years ago, remember when McVay was putting a wide receiver at fullback and teams just didn't really know what to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. So pretty cool. Very cool.
And I think it's also it's that the play action's gone up so much this year that you can be maybe affording to do that, because you're seeing more of that quarterback keeping that ball coming off the play action. So maybe the higher volume of it just says, well, but it's always a risk or a chance if we have the edge, just go after the quarterback, that he's taking himself out of the play and it's going to be a running play. But if they're running it at such a high rate, if I'm facing a team like the Rams that are running it at the highest rate of the NFL, probably smart of me at that point to just zero on the quarterback, because the win there is so great. If I get that quarterback and he turns around and I can catch him, that's a sack or a pick six, as we got this last week. So it's like the risk, the squeeze is worth the juice.
Yeah. I mean, it's I guess the Rams ran the ball on us okay. I guess they did have a little bit of success on the ground, but not enough to make it not worth it. That's for sure.
Yep. Not enough that we had to buy into it. It seems like we could still kind of play it up on Stafford. One more interesting part here, Brendan, that stood out to me, and that you talk about a team going in the wrong direction from a tendency standpoint for where the league's at right now, Brendan. This stat to me just screams it. 32nd in the NFL running inside, first in percentage of runs to outside at 74%, Brendan. 74% of the runs. So I want to see if you're buying onto what I'm selling on this. The league's transition to cover 2 shell. The league's transition to a lot of nickel. The league's transition to having that weird, wonky 4-man front now with 2 wide 9 edges and 2 defensive tackles that are lined up as like 4-3 defensive linemen. So the draw, and guys like McVay that have embraced this, is going back into A and the B gap runs, to moving a little bit away from the outside zone. Not that outside zone doesn't have a flavor or place here, but you have to intermix your outside zone with gap-based concept. You have to intermix your outside zones with those A and B gap power runs. And what you're seeing with the Falcons is that they're just running zone pure. It's outside or it's inside zone, and it's running outside zone at that 74% of the time at the highest mark in the league, which this is something that just defensively to me, structurally wise, why is McVay and Shanahan gone away from outside zone? Because you don't have defensive ends aligned up in like the old Red Bryant 5-tech role where they're right over a tackle, and that tackle can get his hands on that guy quick and eliminate him off the edge fast. So you can go kind of as an offense, capture that edge with your tackle because you've got the quick action, right? When I widen that defensive end out, Brendan, one step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Now that's much further that tackle has to get out to that edge to get to that contact. And the edge is also naturally out with a lot more width to be able to set the edge. He's actually just naturally already got the edge set. He just got to collapse it down in on it now this way. So now that's why that outside zone is not working as well. That's why we don't see the fly sweeps as much, quite frankly. Remember, fly sweeps were like how common they were? Like McVay would run like 7 of them in a half against us. Now he might not run one run, but 1 a game. And the reason being is because of that widened out defensive line you're getting. So the Falcons should be, like a lot of teams in the NFL, adjusting to getting back and balancing it out. But instead, they seem to still be leading into this like it's 2015 to Brendan. Does this add up or track to you?
I guess the focus is just trying to get Bijan the ball in space. That's the only thing I can think of, because they're looking at him and they're like, this is the modern day LaDainian Tomlinson. So we want to treat him like he is LaDainian Tomlinson. I don't know. You're right. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, one thing that you learn when you watch the NFL long enough is that coaches are stubborn. They get it in their mind that they're going to do things a certain way, and they don't move off of that just because it doesn't work. Like they will stick to it because in their mind, it's the right thing to do, and they will not be moved off of it. So at some point during the off season, or maybe even last year, somebody told Atlanta, you got to run outside zone constantly, and they won't move off of it no matter what. Like you pointed out, they're 18th in rushing EPA with one of the top 3 running backs in the league. That doesn't make any sense, but the stubbornness here is just very, very evident, where this guy believes this is the right way to go. I'm going to ignore all evidence to the contrary, and we're going to go with it.
Would you go to being the highest tendency in any route? We're going to be the number 1 team at not targeting the middle of the football field. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. And remember how we talked about that, what that then does for defenses every single week when they can anticipate that from you from an offense, when our prior offenses used to be like that? Because now what that defense goes is like, why cover the middle of the field? Why not squeeze the routes to the outside the numbers? Because that's where you're going to live. So likewise, Falcons might be amazing at running outside zone. They might be a top 5 team running outside zone this year. But because teams can so thoroughly anticipate the fact that that's where you're going to go run the ball, I'm now making you less effective at something you do really well. And while you're right about Bijan Robinson and what he can do on the outside, Brendan, you also have Tyler Algiers on this roster, who is a hammer, who is an A and B gap runner, who would be well suited for those kind of runs. But you're not utilizing him really in that way. And it's one of the oddities in looking at this Falcon team offensively speaking. I think you're right that they just got it stuck in their mind. But it's one of the places to me where you're definitely not doing yourself any favors offensively by being this predictable in how you're running the ball.
And how much do you want to bet of the 24% of the carries that are inside? It's pretty much all Algier, and they're being very telegraphed. Like without 100%. Looking at it, I would assume that that's probably the case.
I would assume that that's as well probably the case on that too. And this should help the Seahawks defense this week in being able to pinpoint, again, coming back to, you're going into the teeth of our defense. If you're going to attack us, A and B gap, where we're a little lighter on that defensive line, the 6-man fronts. You get to width. Now you're giving Witherspoon and Eamon time to come to rally up on the ball. And that's where I think we're going to be able to better handle their rushing attack at that point. Not that we're going to stop it fully. I have Bijan still going over 66.5 yards, but they're not going to be able to control the game that way and the way that they're going to need to beat us because of part of how they structure this rushing attack. Another place that I think they're going to be really struggling in, Brendan, is I think this is trending in the direction where Drake London's not going to play.
Yeah.
They've got a short.
I've seen that too.
Yeah. They got a short week to Tampa Bay next week. Feels like if the Jets game had been a win last week and they were still kind of really not just mathematically in it, like they're down to their last straw right now, but actually, hey, we're in it. We can still go on a run, but you lose that Jets game. And I think that as much might inform this injury situation with Drake, where they start to look at this and they go, do we want to get Drake like having potentially an ACL with his PCL injury and have it get worse for a year that's already kind of done, when we're going to be already kind of looking at next year, especially because there might be something in the back of their mind, Brendan, thinking, hey, maybe we want to make that second round pick a little bit better because we don't have a first round pick. I'm not saying teams think like that, but you kind of wonder if that might be a little bit on the back of their mind as they're like, we got some work to do and we don't have a lot of draft ammunition to do this.
Yeah, and even if you take that out, why would you mess around with one of your best players in a game that really doesn't mean much to you? Like, I'm sorry, but Atlanta could win out and get all kinds of help, and they're still not getting in. Like 9-8 is not going to do it in the NFC this year. So, yeah, I think that Drake London will be out, and that means Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney are their top 2 receiving options.
Because they've let go of Ray McLeod. Another place where Raheem Morris went weird here is Ike Hilliard, their receivers coach, was fired mid-year. Some weird internal thing going on there. Ike has produced a lot of really top-end receivers. Ray was one of the guys that was one of their consistent receivers on that team, but he was kind of intricately linked to Hilliard. So when Hilliard left, it seemed like Ray was also going to have to be released at that point. Now you lose Drake, and like you said, now you're down to a Darnell Mooney who's not having as good a year as he did last year for them right now. And Kyle Pitts, who's just kind of having just about the same sort of year, seems like every year there for them, where he's going to get about 600 yards receiving, and he's going to be all about still the tantalizing what he could be rather than what he actually is. And they don't have anything else around them. The other tight ends on the roster are blocking tight ends because that's not what Kyle does as well. So you have to have your blocking tight ends there to fill in around that. They're as light as just about as light, Brendan. They might even be in worse. No, they're probably about at the same shape, just about as where that Titans receiving core was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I think that's about right. I mean, I actually like the Tennessee tight end room a little bit better. They had Okonkwo and they had Helm. I like those guys.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They might have been a little bit better as far as in the totality what they brought tight end wise, but this is a place where I think you're going to struggle in this. You don't have any challenge on the outside from Seattle's perspective. I wonder if Mike will dial up a little bit of more of the stack boxes this week to deal with the rushing attack, just because he's anticipating that they can't do anything to us on the back end, especially without Drake London. So why not? And we know with Mike that he has certain weeks where he will institute, different plans of attack. And this might be one, if I'm from a Mike standpoint, I know we love to live in light boxes, but I might be willing. Kirk Cousins doesn't have the biggest arm anymore, doesn't have the mobility anymore. I might be willing to do a little bit more of the stack box blitz stuff this week than I would do on a normal weekly basis. You as well?
I don't see how it can hurt you. I don't know who on Atlanta is going to punish you for it. I mean, what's their speed on their team right now? And Bijan's fast, but Mooney's not. I don't think he's like a speedster or anything. He's not going to punish you down the field like a Rashid Shaheed type.
No, not to that same level.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think there's a lot you can do in a game like this, and you don't have to worry too much about this Atlanta team being able to punish you with no Drake London.
Indeed. And I think you've got to generate the pressure on Cousins. I don't think he always has been a guy that's always dealt with pressure great. He's got a little bit of that Sam thing that happens at times with Darnold, where he can kind of like just lose track of what's going on around him in the pocket and not always kind of inherently feel the pressure around him. So you got to get the pressure in on him this week. We obviously do a great job of that, but all the more reason I'm leaning into, from a game plan standpoint, stack the boxes a little bit more than you would tend to, just because you can get away with it because you're not scared on the back end, and it'll help you in stopping the run. And then bring a little bit more blitzing than you tend to, because Kirk can't get away from it. He's not going to punish you like a guy like Baker if he gets it blocked up and can break the pocket and go scramble for 20 yards. There's really no downside to doing it at that point. Why not? but as well too, I could see Mike just saying, hey, we could just lean on him in this game and it'll be enough too.
I feel like you could do pretty much anything you wanted to do in this game and things are probably going to go your way. So you can mess around a little bit, you can experiment, and you're probably good because, again, like the no Drake London thing really takes the bite out of this Falcons offense.
It does. They're so reliant on him, and he's such a big part of what they do. I mean, he had one game this year, I think he had like 3 touchdown catches, and he was like the whole full meal deal. So he's a guy that has really come along for them and is a very important part. And they just haven't done enough for the rest of the receiving core. Kyle Pitts hasn't come along enough to give them any kind of viable secondary element that they can go to. And so it is kind of all just Drake ride or die a little bit. He's their JSN, so to speak.
Yeah, he's having a great year too. Actually, I was looking at it, 9 games. He's averaging almost 100 yards a game.
Yeah, he was starting to, everything was really starting to come in bloom there with him. And he's a good fit with, I think, Penix with the trust balls that he can throw up, and putting in the right spot. I think long-term, those guys are a really great connected, like 2 really good talents to kind of pair together.
I'm worried about Penix, man. He's torn that ACL, I think 3 times now. At a certain point, don't you just hang it up?
I think you do, but it's probably one more ACL before you do that. I would say, because look, there's the guys like Thomas Davis types with the Carolina Panthers a couple of years ago. Remember, he tore his ACL, he tore his Achilles. The guy seemed like he could never get healthy with the Rams. Got over to the Panthers, eventually found his health footing. You never know with these guys when things can kind of finally get all locked into place, and he ended up having a great career. And I think that still has a potential. It's worrisome though, dude. I'm not saying it's not like it's not nothing when you tear your ACL that much. And especially because I don't think he was necessarily just being waylaid by pressure this year with Atlanta. Like you got about an average amount of pressure in what you were getting there, and yet you still got injured on that. That's disconcerting for a guy that doesn't have the most mobility to get away from danger in addition to that. Crack, no smack. I love the username with a $5 donation over on Brendan's side. Are we getting a rooting guide before tonight's game? Funny how Jake was getting pressured to not knock on the Rams during roundtable. Let's have it go, Hawks. Yeah.
The rooting guide's coming up after the stream. It's already actually uploaded. I just need to publish it.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Who we want tonight? We want Detroit or Dallas tonight?
I want Detroit. I want that Dallas team to be done. I need that Dallas team to go away ASAP. I watch that team play and I'm like, I feel like if they just had George Pickens run slants the whole game, nobody would ever stop it. I think they could just throw a slant to George Pickens 35 times. I don't know what you do.
Yeah, it does seem like with that Detroit secondary that no matter what they've put the investment wise into that over the last couple of years, DJ Reed, Brian Branch, Carlton Davis last year, it just doesn't matter. You still seem to be able to go through that thing like Swiss cheese at times and have your way in any direction that you want to, especially if you have top end receivers that can get the job done. So I would go with that as well. We want the Lions at this point. I think Dallas is a little bit scary, and we want the Lions in this too because they're playing a couple of teams, including our Rams down the line on this. We want them as hungry as possible to try to be doing all they can be to get in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Detroit on that one, Crack, too.
Yeah, last year when Dan Campbell said, that for all we know, this is going to be our only chance to go to the Super Bowl, he nailed it. He hit it hard.
It's where windows go, man. You have your window and your prime place to strike, and sometimes windows can last longer than others, and they cut down and they shorten out, and it can be brutal when it hits suddenly out of nowhere. And you thought, from Detroit standpoint, we got years, but you lose a Ben Johnson, and Frank Ragnow retires, and this over here and that over there, and it's just enough to kind of weaken you down from as strong as you've been in recent years. Doesn't mean you're a weak team, but you're just weakened from where you've been in prior years, and they do feel like they're in that kind of state right now. Jake was definitely getting the business from the chat for the Rams lost the Panthers there, and he owned it. People didn't feel like he owned it quite enough on that Crack, but he owned it in general terms as much as I think Jake can when it comes to his Rams losing, as he still does have those Super Bowl aspirations. But a lot of fun being able to do that round table every week with him, Crack, and good guys over there. Really good guys over there.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to win every game. You're going to lose sometimes. Yeah. I don't think that Rams team should be like throwing in the towel on this season right now. They should still probably be pretty optimistic. I get it.
Yeah, I think all their losses are probably going to happen to 3 playoff teams so far right now as it's gone. So, they've lost it collectively by a couple of handful of points, all these losses they've had. So Rams are still as legit as ever. Panthers team plays a little bit differently at home. We're going to probably see that in a couple of weeks as well. And they're not an easy day at the office is what, in addition, I think they had that offensive line, how they've rebuilt that was not a good matchup for that Rams defensive line. That if you got a grade A offensive line, that you can give them a long day at the office, I think, because they are a little bit lighter up front.
Right.
Especially if you're committed to the run, especially if you're committed to actually running the ball and staying with it, which we weren't a couple of weeks ago. But thank you, Crack. Appreciate the donation. Brendan, is there any other parts to this Falcon offense or defense that you think is notable coming in this game that we should be aware of?
I think we covered it pretty good. I don't think there's too much else to say. Obviously, a lot of the stuff we talk about offensively is a little bit tricky with Cousins out there, but I'll tell you, I thought Cousins looked really good last week and his receivers just let him down. So, like under normal conditions, if we were coming into this game and we hadn't seen that, I would say, oh, Cousins, his footwork is all messed up. His process of going through throwing is all messed up. I got nothing to worry about. But in this instance, I don't know. I don't even know if you can say that Cousins is really looking that much worse than Penix was, honestly. Like Cousins was dealing. I don't know how you lose to the Jets when you're dealing like that, but they found a way. They got maybe the best punter in the business right now, that Bradley Pinion guy. He's been around a long time. I'm a big fan of his. And what else is up with their special teams? They've gone through 3 different kickers this year.
Worst special teams in the unit in the NFL, probably going up against the best special teams in the NFL.
Oh, okay. We'll see what happens. We'll see. That could be a recipe for something, right? Shaheed hasn't had a touchdown yet since he got here on punt returns, but maybe.
This is a game where I think Shaheed busts out with a big return. I think that your special teams, this is the exact type of game where there's that much of a discrepancy between the two and how they're ranked and rated and what they get done. And I think you're going to feel that a bit in this game too, in addition to other factors at hand. Just makes it that much of a longer day at the office. And I don't know what Raheem's thinking, Brendan, because, those defensive-minded head coaches tend to always get the memo that they need to have their special teams unit on point if they're going to be a defensive-minded head coach, a defensive-driven team. So for him to kind of miss the boat on that as a second-time head coach and have them performing as badly as they are, this is where I think where there's a real chance with Raheem that where the Falcon fans are out on this one, that he gets moved on from this year at this point because of this.
Yeah. Did he get the 6-year contract, or was that just McDonald that got that? Because I know some guys got the big contract.
McDonald got the 5.
I thought McDonald got 6.
Nope, 5.
Okay, Raheem Morris got the 5. So Arthur Blank is eating a lot of money if he moves off Raheem Morris, but I think you gotta. It's only $4 million a year, though. It's not that much. So
you're right about that. McDonald did sign 6, by the way. You're correct. Yeah. You're right. So 6-year contract to Mike. That's looking like a good deal.
Yeah, I think we had to beat out Washington, right? There was like that bidding war. We had to go over the top.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, lost my train of thought there, Brendan. What were we just talking about?
Special teams. We were talking about Raheem Morris getting the 5-year contract, probably getting fired.
Yeah, so probably getting let go at this point, especially for an Atlanta team that went kind of all in with the trading of the first round pick. Because I'm sure that a little bit of that, you come to your coach and you're like, all right, we're going to do this. Or do you think you're really ready? All right, we're going to give you this James Pierce dynamic pass rusher who we've got a first round grade on because we can trade back up in there. Is he going to take us over the top? Is this going to be what your defense? And Raheem goes to general manager like, yeah. No, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. No, we're going to go win the division, no doubt. And then you fall far short of that. You're last in the division. And again, some of these things that are issue-wise from, the offense looking completely out of sorts and the OC looks like he's in over his head, to your special teams being bad, to, your defense maybe being middle of the road at best. It doesn't, historically speaking, this doesn't bear out well in the favor of that defensive head coach who's trying to hold on to his job.
Yeah. I think that he deserves his firing too. I think when you look at some of the things that he does, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The clock management is really bad. I remember there was a game last year where it was the end of the game. They acted like they didn't have any timeouts when they did. And they asked him about that at the end after the game. And he was like, yeah, I kind of wish our players had done a better job getting up to the line faster. And I was like, ugh, come on, dude.
Yeah. Just the details you touch on, the details just aren't right. Like that's the thing. He's just not getting he's not getting the smaller items correct all across the board. Like he's kind of just strikes me as maybe a big picture guy rather than getting down to the details of it in the way that like we see with McDonald and how he does. It's like when he like mentions chasing edges and stuff like that, I think that's a little bit of a part and piece of that a bit. And making sure you're paying attention to all the little stuff, especially the little stuff that maybe our competition isn't paying as close attention to. I like the Falcons. Well, how do you see this game going, Brendan? How's this thing going to play out?
I'll go the no Drake London thing. I initially went like 31-20, but the no Drake London thing is making me wonder if Atlanta gets to 20. So I'm going to go like 31-13.
And I'll go 24-13. Okay. I think you just see a lot of running the ball, which is going to shorten down the possessions and some of that in this, which will limit down some of the points with it. But I do think that Drake London thing is enough to just take this over the top. You probably get the win anyway if Drake's out there fairly easily. I just don't see the pathway to how they hold into this game unless they're able to just run rough shot over us with Rashawn, and he's able to go for 225, 250 in this game. I don't know how you I don't know where the pathway is lying here for the Falcons to get a win. The other way could be two as well. And this is where the offense probably has to keep in mind of this, Brendan. We can't turn over the ball 3 times. Donald can't have 3 interceptions here with where that Falcon offense is, minus Drake London. You've got to walk in this a little bit with the same mentality you walked into at the end of the game last week with Minnesota, being that, look, we don't have to score 31 points today. It's nice if we can do it. It's cool if it happens, but it doesn't have to be a mandate or a prerequisite in a play calling and how aggressively or we're going about our business, because we can just kind of play this fit to serve, and we come out of this with probably a comfortable win.
Yeah, I just think you're playing in the dome, in that Atlanta dome especially, it's a little easier to put up points. So even though I think you're right, I think we're going to score more than we did last week.
Wouldn't shock me in the least if we did, Brendan. That is for sure. I completely understand, especially where this Falcon team is, where you have to be thinking too, where they're already kind of side-eyeing Cabo a little bit. Like how many more weeks to the end of the season here? Where are we at? Is it week 14, 15? Where are we? Are we done yet? It's got to be a little bit of that sinks in. It's human nature, right? Human nature.
How can it not?
How can it not? Say Dezat. I can't say that name, but I thank you for the $5 donation over on Brendan's side. Appreciate you doing that.
I believe he meant to ask a question as well, but he forgot to put it in the thing, because a little bit below that, you see thoughts on canine extension.
Oh, okay. Yes, great question on this one. So I'm looking for that note as well, if I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, it's right below the donation, like one message beneath it. Gotcha. I see it on my end. Maybe it's not on your end or something because it's on mobile. I don't know.
So it's not quite showing up on me. So I would say say that I've gotten more and more into this place in recent weeks, which is to say that as I look at the guys that are going to be for free agency coming up right now, Reek Woolen, Josh Jobe, Drake Thomas, the variety of names that are coming up, the guy that I would like to retain most right now as a priority would be Kenneth Walker. And the reason would be on this is that I think that he's showing that he's able to establish himself in this offense as you've gotten better run blocking, as he's better understood the system. He's able to get the most, you're getting the most out of him, I think. I think as well, you could find a contract that would make sense for both sides on this, where you wouldn't have to destroy the bank to do so. I think as well, teams are going to be looking at Kenneth Walker and what he's done here and your lack of ability to create holes for him, the amount that he gets hit right after the carry in the backfield at times, and how little he's had to be given. The fact you haven't had a great offensive coordinator here through the first couple of years, and finally you do now, and he's playing at his best. The fact that he's one of those guys that's like 1 or 2 in PFF scores for running backs in the league. Like when you look at their grades, and not just this year, by the way, folks, when you look at the last couple of years at the running back grades, Walker is right up there at the top of the bunch. They love Walker. They love how he runs. And teams are going to look at that data, all of that data across the board, I think, and there's going to be a smart team that goes, this is a depressed asset. This asset will give a good contract to, but they've not maximized this guy for how good he is and what he can do on a football field. And so I would rather get ahead of those teams on this one. The running back class is all right. It's all right. I think it's got a potential where you see a couple of guys taken really, really high, and then there's a little bit of a dead space there and maybe that second, third round range, whereas other years we've seen more of the strength in the second, third round range as far as the depth from the running back position. And I think as well, I like what Sharp's doing, but I don't know if he's part of the long-term answer. You don't know what you get back with McIntosh next year. it kind of suddenly becomes a need if you lose Walker. And I don't want this thing to become a need as we're trying to top off the other parts of this team. So I'd be even in favor or on point with this, say, of even potentially throwing around a franchise tag on him for this upcoming year. But I'm also working on a theory, Brendan, which we're going to talk about this offseason. I'm working on the theory of gaming the compensatory system.
All right. I do like that compensatory system. I do.
Because I think if you have a franchise, a guy like this, you do the extensions to a JSN, you do the extensions to a Cross, you do the extensions to Devin Witherspoon, you do a franchise there, right? And then what you do is you put them on big base. So what you do with this, Brendan, is you stick those guys on big base salaries for the first year of the cap hit. You theoretically eat up the cap, right?
Yeah.
You get past the compensatory time. Do you see where I'm going with this? You get past the compensatory time. You base to bonus those deals. And then you lose a Reek, you lose a Mafe, you lose a Josh Jobe, you lose a Drake Thomas, you lose a Kobe Bryant. And now we maximize back the 4 picks in return and potentially have even a couple of those higher picks on the compensatory system. And it doesn't cost us anything because we can base the bonus at any time. You can base the bonus after you just sign the contract. There's nothing that can prevent you from doing so.
Yeah. We're ruining it for the rest of the league, by the way. They're going to close that loophole in the offseason after we take advantage of it. We're going to be
they're going to close. Yeah. They're going to close that Eagles void loophole too at some point.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it while it's on the table. Grab it though,
Yeah, it's like the barnyard play. They're going to outlaw it this offseason, so run it every chance you get.
Yeah, right. Use it while you make your money while you can off of it, right? Until they get the regulations in there,
Yeah, so. But I'm ambivalent on the K9 thing. I think both sides are fine. I don't have a super strong preference. I'm more open to it now than I was before. Before I was pretty hardline. I think the right thing to do is just find another running back. But I mean, for one, he stayed healthy this year. And I don't know what it's going to cost to extend K9, but I guess the other element here is that I was looking at upcoming free agents for Seattle this offseason. It's pretty light, honestly, in terms of guys I think we're going to bring back. And the money we're going to have to spend is not that big because Drake Thomas is restricted, so you can keep him for cheap. Ty Okada is restricted if you want to bring him back, so he's going to be cheap. And Jalen Sundell is going to be exclusive rights. So he's going to be literally bargain bin, 1 million, 1 year. And these are guys that might be, I don't know if they're like long-term starters, but they're at the very least valuable pieces of your roster that are going to cost less than you think. And I don't think we're going to keep Woolen. Kobe, I know we tried to keep him last offseason, so maybe the plan is to keep him. I'm not so sure. I could see that happening. But I was looking at it and I'm like, it's actually not going to be as punishing as we thought because the extensions we hand out are not going to impact the cap next year, right? You extend JSN, those big cap hits take years to kick in, right? Because he's got
that's back that structure. That's back that structure to me where you could structure this up with the free agents you have that are going to get those contracts. Because if you didn't have a Woolen and a Mafe and a couple of these guys that were going to actually make money on the open market, you wouldn't game this up as much, in my opinion. But it wouldn't shock me in the least if John tries to kind of find a way to game it to the front end of that and then come back around and base the bonuses he's done many times in the past in order to get ahead on that compensatory system. Because it's just right there for kind of the taking. Because I don't think that the intention is going to be to keep a lot of these guys. Or not. We don't have a lot of them. Even in Kobe Bryant's case, Brendan, you came and you offered him a contract extension. Okay, so you're right. You did offer an extension. He turned it down. Why did he turn it down? Because you're trying to save money on the front end of that deal, and you didn't want to be paying both him and Julian Love at the same time, high watermark money. That's what you're now going to have to do after the season that he's had. So I think that the team's already given you an indication when it comes to Kobe of what their intention is going to be with that situation. I may be proven to look silly on this, but I really feel like I'm on pretty solid ground to say that he's probably a guy that you've already like Woolen, like Mafe, have already made your peace with that you're going to move on from after the season. And that's pure returns on that at that point. You got in-house deals you can sign. You make a trade for Max Crosby trade in addition to this. You can see how all that cap hit can get eaten up really quickly. And now you can just play the pure compensatory game to the other side on that if you wanted to front end some of this stuff. So I think you're right. You can go both ways with this. You could take him down to a base salary minimum. You could put signing bonuses through the course of the contract and the years on it. And it's not all bonus money on the front end. You can lower on all of these three major deals, Cross,
Witherspoon, JSN,
all of them can be brought down low, but you can also structure in a way to where maybe you're, playing the game with this too.
Well, even if you do that, though, Cross still has a year left on his rookie deal after this year, and that year can't really be changed, right? That cap hit, what it is locked in. Same for JSN, because these extensions do not alter the contract that's already on the books. They just extend from the end of the current deal, right? Can you?
Yes, but you can manage how that money's, as long as the money's still on the books, you can manage how the money comes out. So if it's a $15 million contract on a 5th year of a deal, let's say, it's not got to cost you $15 million on the cap at that point. You can take it down to a bare minimum base salary and then put the rest in bonus money. And as long as that cap hit is collectively at the mark it's supposed to hit, the NFL is fine with you being within the letter of the law rule wise.
So even though it's 2 different contracts, you can still move it from one contract period to another.
Exactly. As long as that
okay.
cap hit that year stays sustained at the spot that it was predetermined to be at. Is it that they don't care where the 16 million is coming out, bonus or base, as long as the 16's hitting on the contract cap that year. That's the kind of the guaranteed part of it.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know you could do that. Okay, that's fun. Something to think about.
Something to think about. A lot of flexibility in how they can roll it this offseason, by whatever manner they want to kind of trot that thing out a little bit there. I think that kind of just about wraps us up here. Brendan, any kind of other final thoughts here on this game or anything else on your mind with what's going on?
No, let's just go get this win. And then the last 4 games of the year, it's going to be compelling. We got 4 compelling games.
Brendan's point, you've done a good job of taking care of the teams on your schedule you're supposed to take care of. And you could say, well, that's just what teams do. Well, look at this Atlanta Falcon team. One of the reasons they find them in a position of hopelessness right now is a loss to the Miami Dolphins and a loss to the New York Jets. 2 teams they absolutely positively should have taken care of, but they didn't. So it's easier said than done in this NFL, handling these opponents week in and week out. And I know we've done so comfortably so many times this year, Brendan, but can't be undersold. You still got to handle business on the road against this tough team, 10 a.m. It's not going to be easy day at the office, but the Seattle Seahawks have done so much heavy lifting so far this year to set themselves up to be able to hit down the home stretch and have everything in their control, not just getting into the playoffs, not just getting good playoff position, but that number 1 seed, that number 1 bye, which we know in our history has been so valuable in the past.
Yep. Got to get it. Got to get it done.
Got to get it done. Got to get it done. Well, I thank you guys for watching today. Please, if you can do me this favor, hit that like button on either of our sides, wherever you may be watching, both sides. You hear the Hawks Nest or Seahawks, Brendan Nelson. You can find him on YouTube as well. Please do get subbed to both of us on our sides of it. Brendan also does some great work out there on the Bleacher Report in addition to that. Brendan's got himself also a little drop he wants to give into you guys here. Yeah. So he's got a stream for later on this evening.
Right. So right after the stream ends, I'm actually going to go pick up Metroid Prime 4. It came out today. I'm going to go pick up my copy. I'm going to go install it. And sometime later tonight, I should be streaming it. So brand new game just came out. Very hyped, very excited for it. So tune in tonight on Twitch, Seahawks Brendan Nelson, or Kick Seahawks Brendan Nelson. I'll be dual streaming to both, and we'll see what's up. So only Metroid Prime game I played, by the way, is the original. So this should be interesting. But I'm excited. So hang out, tune in, and we'll see where it takes us.
Go get it. Go get it tonight. Well, thank you for doing this, Brendan. We really appreciate y'all watching here on that side of it. It's been a great season to watch, and us being able to cover this last couple of years. We haven't always had a team at this time of year that's been so good on so many different accounts, and the future just seems so bright. It's such a wonderful thing to see, and hopefully you're hyped to the moon about this team because they're giving you so much to root for. Let's go get this win this week. Let's go set this final stage for the home stretch of the season. It's going to be tough, Brendan. The schedule is going to be tougher. These are going to be high-quality opponents down the line that we're going to have to face, but it's there for the taking. It's there for the grabbing. See how much this team wants it. See if this is the year where it comes together. But it does feel like it's getting further and further into that direction of things the deeper into the season we get. Thanks for watching, folks. We will be back next week with the B&B show at 12 o'clock as we are every week. Hopefully you're hyped for this upcoming game. But if you're not already, we're going to remind you, don't you ever forget about this team. Definitely don't forget about a team that's just about in first place, that's just about got that number 1 seed right there in its sight line to go grab. Man, we shouldn't have to remind them on this, Brendan. They should be hyped, but we're going to let them know anyway. Do not you guys ever forget. Don't you dare. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.